meeting for the City Council, City of Vacaville, to order. I would like a roll call, please.
Council Agency Authority Member Stockton.
Here.
Ritchie.
Here.
Silva.
Here.
Wiley.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chair Roberts.
Here.
Mayor Roulette.
I am here. If you can, please stand with me for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will move to item 3, approval of the agenda. Mr. City Manager, do we have anything that's going to change on the agenda?
We do not. No, we do not, Mayor.
I'll entertain a motion.
A motion approved.
Sullivan, second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Yes.
Councilmember Silva.
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley.
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts.
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. We'll move to item 4, approval of minutes. I'll entertain motion.
Sullivan will move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Silva.
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley.
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts.
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. Item 5, presentations. I see none. We'll go to item 6, which is public hearings tonight. We'll entertain anything that's not on the agenda. Do we have anybody? I don't see anybody. Crystal?
Mr. Mayor, for our public hearing items, the first item is our district boundaries, redistricting.
Yes.
So we have a quick presentation update on the latest maps, if we can go through that.
Yeah, but I'm looking at item 6, public hearings. Is it 6A?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this next item is the next in our series, discussions of the redistricting boundaries. I'll turn it over to our city clerk, Michelle Thornburg, who will lead this off.
Good evening. This public hearing is also being provided in Spanish and Tagalog, as well as American Sign Language. Please set your language translation selection, which can be found in the lower ribbon to the right, to the language you wish to hear the presentation in. If you would like to make a comment during the public comment period, please let the moderator know which language you wish for translation. This will allow our translators to mute themselves and prepare to provide a translation of your public comment into English. Comments or questions in other languages may be sent to cityclerk@cityofvacaville.com and will be responded to within 24 hours. For ASL, please type comments into the chat and your comments will be addressed. Thank you. So for this evening, we have Joanna Jin with BBK back to review draft maps. Tonight's focus should be on any modifications you'd like to see to a small range of maps that could be brought back for consideration at your next council meeting with final adoption at your April 12th meeting. And with that, I will turn it over to Joanna.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Joanna Jin, and every 10 years, agencies that elect their representatives by district must redraw their maps. And under the Fair Maps Act, 4 public hearings are required. And tonight we are having our 3rd public hearing. Excuse me. Okay, as Michelle mentioned, tonight we'll review the draft maps, the 5 from the previous public hearing, as well as the additional 6 map that was submitted by a member of the public. And the goal is to either select a map or to narrow down the map choices for the 4th public hearing. I previously discussed the redistricting process in the past 2 public hearings, and so I won't go through that again. Tonight, the goal is really to focus on the map options and to review that. So with that, this is an image of the existing districts before you. Because there are 6 districts and the city has a population of 95,909, the ideal population for each district would be 15,984. Currently, there are 2 districts that have an impermissible deviation or difference from the ideal population that exceeds 10%. That would be districts 1 and districts 4. District 1 has exceeds its population by 2,013 from the ideal population. So there's a deviation of 12.59%, and District 4 has a deviation in the opposite direction at negative 10.67%. When you take the spread of those 2 amounts, that results in a total deviation of 23.26%, and that also exceeds the 10%. So the goal would be to have the total deviation as well as the deviation for each of the 6 districts be under 10%. So the findings from that data are that the total deviation is currently unacceptable at 23.26%. Creating a majority minority district may not be possible due to the demographic makeup of the community. We did take a look at whether it would be possible to alter districts 3 and 4 and create a majority minority district. But when we looked at the census block data, it appears that the CVAP Latino population is pretty spread out. The CVAP white population is pretty spread out. So there's actually a 2-to-1 ratio or a 4-to-1 ratio in some instances. So the current district boundaries will need to be adjusted to balance out the population to the ideal population. Okay, and with that, I will go into the draft map options. So we have map option 1, which BBK did prepare. And over here, there is a total deviation that has gone down to 9.06%. And what has occurred is that in districts 2, 3, and 6, that's the orange, light blue, and dark blue, the population has not changed for those districts. So those 3 districts remain wholly intact. And that means that, of course, the core for those 3 districts remains intact. District 1 has had its population decrease from 17,997 to 16,113. District 4 has seen an increase in population from 14,280 to 16,011. And District 5 has had a slight increase in population. So overall, map option 1 retains the core existing districts, and it also has compact and contiguous shapes as well. I also wanted to note that there were small population shifts of voters between 1, 4, and 5 because 2, 3, and 6 remain wholly intact, and it does not create a majority-minority voting district. And that will be the case for all 6 map options that will be presented tonight. So moving on to map option 2, this is very similar to the last map, although there have been population adjustments and shifting for all of the districts. So for District 6, there was a loss of 172 residents. Those residents went to District 2. And for District 3, there was an increase of 249 residents. For District 4, there was an increase in 1,641 residents. District 1 saw a loss of 2,583 residents, and District 5 had an increase of 693 residents. So overall, this map option presents compact and contiguous shapes. Districts 2 and 6 were affected the least, and Districts 1 and 4 were affected the most. And that is consistent with the adjustments that we are trying to make to balance out the district populations for 1 and 4 especially. Okay. And the total deviation for map option 2 is below the acceptable range. So it is acceptable at 7.98%. All map options that will be presented to you tonight will be legally permissible. So moving on to map option 3. This one, you'll notice that there was a renumbering of the districts. This was a map that was submitted by a member of the public. The districts are compact and contiguous, but it just appears that there was some renumbering. There has been a major shifting in terms of the existing core districts. If council would like to proceed with this map, it could also order the renumbering of the districts to be more in line with the existing districts at this time. I'd also like to note that districts 3, 4, and 5 are slightly less compact. And the total deviation is at 9.33%. Moving on to map option 4, this actually has the lowest deviation at 2.42%. And what that means is that there is a lot more population rebalancing. Remember, the deviation is the difference from the ideal population. And so in order to get closer to the ideal population from the existing numbers and to lower the deviation, it requires more shifting of people and around the districts. But overall, you have contiguous and compact districts, and it does resemble somewhat the existing map boundaries. Okay, and with that, there is a total deviation, as I mentioned, at 2.43%. That will be the lowest one. I'll move on to map option 5. Map option 5 also somewhat resembles the existing boundaries as well. It was submitted by a member of the public. The total deviation is at it's actually at 3.64%. There was a comment that was made at the previous hearing as to whether District 3 would be a majority minority district because Days Redistricting listed it as a majority minority district. And what Days Redistricting does is it considers a coalition district a majority minority district. But under case law, actually a majority minority district is comprised of a single minority for those purposes. So it's actually different than what is under Days Redistricting. So I just wanted to note that. And the districts here are also compact and contiguous. Okay, and with that, we have our last map option 6, which was recently submitted. So we have not yet had time to fully vet everything, but we do have the demographic data available. And so this has a total deviation of 9.64%. It somewhat resembles the existing district boundaries, but as you notice, District 3 shifts from the center of the city to the west of District 1. And for District 1, there was a decrease in population. District 2 also saw a decrease in population. District 3 saw an increase in population. District 4 saw an increase in population. District 5 saw a slight increase in population, and District 6 also saw a slight increase in population. So overall, again, the deviation is at 9.64%. It creates contiguous, yet slightly less compact voting districts, especially with regards to District 3. And as I mentioned, none of the 6 map options present a majority-minority voting district. But again, that is because the population is integrated within the city districts. So for the next steps, we are seeking input on the redistricting process and the map options, and council would have the opportunity to select a map or to narrow the selection. The one comment I would make is that for map option 6, that has not been published for 7 days. So you could narrow down the selection or proceed with one map for the 4th public hearing. So overall, in terms of the timeline, again, we're at the 3rd public hearing. On March 22nd, we'll have the 4th public hearing to introduce the ordinance adopting the final map. That would be first reading. And then April 12th would be the actual adoption of the ordinance adopting the final map, and that would be second reading. And of course, the ordinance would have to be adopted at a regular meeting of the council. So that would be the last opportunity to adopt the ordinance prior to the April 17th deadline. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to public comment. And I see no public comment. So I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the city council. And I do see Councilmember Sullivan. Go ahead, sir.
I guess I have a couple starter comments, and I'm not necessarily ready to call it quits after that. But we did receive an email from a constituent. I think all of us received it probably Monday morning, maybe. And the concern that they pointed out, which I think there's probably a legal reason to this that you can probably explain as well, was that the districts as they are also have a pretty significant discrepancy in registered voters and voting age population. So I think I remember you saying that's something we can't factor in anyways. Are we not legally allowed to account for that? I guess the data he shared, he says, was from the elections office. And in some cases you would have, let's say, a district with 9,700 voters compared to another district with 18,000 voters, or voting age population, I'm sorry. But that swing would be like 7,000 registered voters to almost 12,000 registered voters. Is that something we can't factor in or calculate or not? It does seem pretty imbalanced. And I know, part of this process is to eliminate some of those issues, but can we factor in registered voters or voting age population balance in this process or not?
No, it would be based off of the, no.
Okay. So registered voters is not something we can factor into the calculation. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you are looking at the balance of the citizens of voting age population when you're trying to create majority minority district. But in this case, it's not going to be possible. So what you are looking at is drawing the districts based off of the existing population under the 2020 census data.
Okay, but we did in fact, and I appreciate your clarification tonight. That was very helpful. So I think probably the definition in council members' heads, or the assumption we made, was that a majority minority district could be a conglomerate of multiple different ethnicities. You're saying the legal definition is it has to be one specific ethnicity that is a minority, has to be dominant to be considered a majority minority district. But from our vantage point, we are still creating probably districts where the majority of the folks that live in that district are a mixture of minorities. Is that correct?
Right. If council would like to adopt a map where there is a coalition district, that is fine too.
And do we have a coalition district, I guess, is my question, in any of the current maps that you pointed out?
That would be District 5. Map option 5 under District 3.
Okay. Can we see that again?
Yes.
Those are my questions for now, Mayor. I'm sure I'll have some more in a minute.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, everybody. So I think just with respect to the different cultures kind of laid out throughout the city, I respect we got to keep the 6 map open for 7 days, but I'm not interested in supporting 1, 2, or 3. And then just to secure that we have a diverse, as much as possible, diverse voice in the city, I would probably support map 5. So that's all. Oh, just one quick question. I know we mentioned it last time, but can we just clarify, as our city continues to grow, how would that be incorporated, anything outside the defined boundaries as we move forward the next 10 years?
Yes, that's a great question. So the drawing of the maps has to be based off of the 2020 census data. There are very limited instances in which population can be considered. So if that, again, is to create a majority minority district where that would be possible, that would be permissible. And then one way to do that, of course, would be to look and factor in entitlements and plan development. Again, the primary basis for balancing would be off of the 2020 census data. If there's something where annexation does occur, then essentially what would happen is the annexed area would go over to the nearest district.
Okay. Can we move to the just a map real quick, just for an example? Any map would
Sure.
So like for let's say between District 1 and 2, I know you can't see my mouse cursor, but I see it right in between there. If it's something that extends, or let's say it borders both of those, how would that work? What would be the process? Is that up to our ordinance or policies, or how would that work?
So I guess when balancing out the maps, you're really, and the population, you're really looking at the numbers based off of the 2020. I think it's a very hard thing because you don't know what the makeup of the additional population will occur. And in some cases where it'll occur, it can occur for a variety of reasons, whether that's development or just movement of people into a certain area. And so that's why it's also very important to base that off of the known 2020 census data. And also why there are very limited instances in which future population growth could be factored in.
Yeah, I guess, sorry, let me clarify my question. If I just want to make, the question is as we grow, how do we ensure that new population who moves in there, even though they're not on the census, how do we make sure that they have a choice? How do we go about incorporating them in each one of the 2 respective districts? You know?
Well, once the map boundaries are drawn, then those new residents would be effectively residing in those new map boundaries until the next time the maps are redrawn for the 2030 census date, based off the 2030 census data.
So I think I understand the question, Councilmember Silva. When we annex land into the city that was not considered within the district boundaries and it abuts 2 districts, it will go into the district that has the lowest population. That's how it gets determined.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
All right, there, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to make note, I had the opportunity to speak with BBK this afternoon along with the city clerk. And there was a modification made to map option 5 that was submitted too late to be included in this. I just want to point out, so the northeastern side of District 4 right there in the middle in the green, there's a commercial area that runs along I-80, which includes Costco and Starbucks and old, I forgot what was maybe a Lowe's or Home Depot that was over there, as well as the adjacent shopping center. Because I talked to some constituents and District 4 didn't have very many shopping centers or businesses in there. So that was included in there. It doesn't change any of the demographics at all because there's 0 residential. I just wanted to point that out, that if you see option 5 and then at the 4th reading, it'll look slightly different. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you for the presentation. And I would say, if I was weighing in, that district map 4 or map 5 would be one of the options that I would be most interested in. For me, the map 6 increases district 6, and that is my district, but it is also an area where all the groundwork is being done and roads are being made, and there's already, so it's not planned development, it's development that's underway. And in map 6, district 6 has the most people, so I would hesitate to add more people in district 6 on option 6. So I would say district map 5 or 4 would be my priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan.
I think I like the direction that Councilmember Silva and Wiley are heading. I think it's probably easier for me to say what I don't like versus what I do like. At this point, the only 2 that I'm really sort of interested in discussing or dialing in a little further would be map 4 and map 5. I really appreciate the public's input and the thought and effort, but the rest of the maps there's a variety of problems I have with each of them. So I think as a clean starting point for me as well, 4 and 5 are really the only 2 that I would want to consider. And I do really appreciate the Vice Mayor's comment about job centers, or economic centers or commercial in my district. It's a lot of housing and employment is one of the biggest needs of my district. So I really do appreciate maybe the expansion of some commercial or job centers, particularly in my district, because it's been pretty devoid of those since the district was designed.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I agree. I like 4 and 5. I could also look at 1 and 6, but if with some tweaking maybe. But the one thing that I wanted to bring up is that between 4 and 5 is there's one little chunk of leisure town that would get taken out, and I think that's a pretty strong community with similar interest related to in map 5, as well as the North Orchard kind of area where Dobbins comes off of Monte Vista. So I just think I think we're really close, right? I mean, the deviation between those 2 maps is really close, and so I think it's kind of a toss-up between those 2. But I would like to keep. I do think it's important that we keep existing neighborhoods together as much as we possibly can.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Yeah, I'll just follow back with what all the comments said, but really, Councilman Stockton kind of hit on the head. The maps were very, very different, but it looks like on some of the maps that we kind of got to do our homework. The packets clearly kind of talk about what we use as natural boundaries and guidelines. The 80 is one of those natural guidelines and boundaries. So to shift 1 and 2 to encompass a portion of District 2 and take away from Leisure Town, you're creating two things that are inherently wrong with the guidelines that you guys set forth of using natural occurring, easily recognizable guidelines and boundaries, which would be the freeway, Nut Tree, Leisure Town, and other avenues, and also keeping similar voting blocks intact, which is Leisure Town is a 55 and older community that is absolutely needs to be intact as a one voting block. So it's kind of like 3 birds, 1 stone. Keep the boundaries, follow your own rules, and make sure the voting blocks stay intact.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Yeah, I think the 80 crossover kind of bugged me at first a little bit too, and I definitely hear what Councilmember Ritchie and Stockton are saying. The one thing that bugged me a lot before that, though, was like the weird island that District 1 had that kind of went over the hill. It just didn't make sense. And we actually had some commentary from a couple residents asking to be looped into 5 because, you know, it just didn't make sense with their neighborhood. So it is a tough one, right? Like if you squeeze the bag over here, it shifts over there. So I can kind of see how that pushed out completely. So I share the concern about keeping Leisure Town intact 100%. But I also don't like the little islands and kind of the tails or the salamander tails or whatever you want to call it. And so some of that got rid of. The one thing too is there is a lot of commercial or industrial space that has no population. So I think sometimes we could tweak the maps along those borders and it really doesn't move voters or people around. So I think there might be a little, you know, a little ability, especially on that 80 cutoff, like they were saying, there's really not houses there. So it may not matter if you shifted that back or not, because I don't think there's actually residents that really live along the freeway. And then my second comment was there are a couple little tails here and there. I see one probably in District 2 on a couple of the maps. And I definitely see on a couple of the maps, some in 4. I also think that keeping the school district separated is a really smart idea. You know, I think Councilmember Ritchie, it's really hard to have the bulk of your kids at VUSD and then you've got like 2 blocks of Travis, right? That's kind of awkward as well. So I do think and I have some of the same issue on my side. So I think the more we can keep Travis with District 6, the better, you know, keep it all in one. It just works so much better for the partnerships we're trying to build with the schools. So if you can triple or quadruple check the options you bring next round with the school district boundaries as well, I think that's also very important to kind of keep continuity with those other electeds. Thank you.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you. I think some of the points are really good. I think one thing that we haven't really dug into as a conversation is, for example, when there is overlap within specific neighborhoods, of the benefit of actually having multiple council members represent that same area. So for example, there were some concerns about traffic issues, and then council member Stockton and myself came out and, you know, we looked at it together along with staff. And so in those instances, rather than having one individual, one council member respectively looking at it, gives the opportunity for, you know, for multiple people to come out. On the other side of that, you know, I would think Del Grove is an example of that, where, you know, because of our council, each of us, of our dedication to the residents of the city of Vacaville, if anybody ever wants to reach out to us about whatever respective issues that they have concerns about, I would say that we've always been pretty engaged. And I think it's incumbent on us to ensure that whatever leaders follow our footsteps, that they too ensure that they hear out the different voices within the community. One thing that I think is just maybe more, you know, personal to me, I would say, maybe that's not the right word, but it's if we dilute that overlap too much, then I think historically that's boxed out certain voices from quote unquote having a seat at the table. And to be honest, I never quite understood the importance of that, of having a seat at the table, you know, until I've been more in this position. So that's just, I just want to add that to the conversation. Thank you.
Councilmember Wiley.
On option, I just want to talk a little bit about the school districts. So maps 4 and 5 have taken a little piece out of District 6 that was Vacaville School District and put it with District 2. The advantage is then all the Vacaville is together and Travis is together. But then the disadvantage is as Councilmember Silva was just saying, you've only got one person at each thing. So I just wanted to point that out. So on District 2 is when they take some from Travis and put it, map 2. On map 2, they take some from Travis and put it in District 2. But on 4 and 5, Travis is in 6 and Vacaville is in 2 on that part. So that's all I just wanted to point out. Thanks.
Okay, we will move on. Mr. City Manager, do you feel comfortable?
I believe so. I think the consensus is maps 4 and or 5. And then there were a couple of modifications suggested for map 5. I think we'll have to take a look at the issues with regards to the population for Leisure Town on the south side of 80. So I think we have enough notes to move forward and bring that back for the final action at your next meeting.
I think 1, 4, and 5 was what I heard. 1, 4, and 5.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on to, we're going to pause for 5 minutes, I believe now, right?
Vamos a pausar por 5 minutos.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Pahinga muna ng
El alcalde podría.
Did we crash there for a second?
Mr. Mayor, I think we were supposed to keep 6 on for a total of 7 days.
Oh, we'll do 1,
But
4, 5, 6.
Staff or the consultant can clarify.
I honestly, yeah, well, it does.
That's fine. With option 6.
I don't think anybody wanted option 6. I think.
No creo que nadie quiso opción 6.
tingin ko wala namang gusto no.
I think you need to bring back 1, 4, and 5. And I think Sullivan gave you some direction. I believe Stockton gave direction. So I think everybody probably gave direction.
Joanna, we can work together on the items that the council has asked us to take a look at.
Perfect. All right. So we'll move on to consent.
Mr. Mayor, this is where we need to take that quick 5-minute recess if we could, please.
Okay. Just for the record, I already called the 5-minute recess.
We're ready to go.
Perfect. So we'll move to item 7, consent calendar. Anybody from the city council want to pull anything? I see none. I'm going to open it up to the public. Just flip here. I see none from the public. I'm going to close it. Entertain motion.
So, motion to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you,
Second,
sir.
Wiley.
Thank you. I got a motion second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move to item 8, business from the floor. I think I was trying to do this one early. This is time to address the city council with any issues that are not on the agenda, but are within the council's subject matter jurisdiction. And I am going to roll down. I see none. I'm going to close public comment. Oh, no, I do see one. Edward Russell, go ahead. You have to clear. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I know this is public comment. First, I just want to acknowledge the stolen land that were occupied. And then I just want to make a response because one of your council members passively aggressively responded to me without saying my name at the last meeting. And I know you guys can't talk because of the Brown Act and all of this good stuff, and that's fine. But him and his cronies decided to basically just say, you shouldn't use divisive words and rhetoric because it's not helpful. So, you know, come up with solutions. So I had offered solutions in the past for this city. Obviously, they fell on deaf ears, or they was just conveniently overlooked. So to respond to the passive aggressiveness, I have solutions. My first solution would be, if you are a sheriff supervisor, you should probably stop signing off on reports where your cronies beat Black women on the side of the highway in front of their children, in front of their father. You should probably denounce 3%er affiliation. You should probably fire the law enforcement officer that punched the autistic child in his face. You should probably fire the law enforcement officer that punched the dog. You should probably fire the law enforcement officer that kidnapped one of your very own Vacaville citizens. You should probably fire the law enforcement officer that beat and killed the old man. You should probably fire the officer that harassed the Black man at Andrews Park a couple of months ago. Those are solutions, very easy solutions. And all of those law enforcement officers I just named should be fired. They should be voided and do not have any access to their benefits. That is just human nature. That's ethics. That's code. That is what's right. Those are solutions. Let's see if you do it. I'll wait.
I'm going to close public comment and we will move on. Okay. 9A, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This first item for your consideration is the consideration and selection of both planning commissioners and parks and recreation commissioners. As the council is aware, current commission terms for both of these commissions expire the end of this year. And so at a meeting in December 14th of last year, the council adopted a policy for the appointment of commissioners by each member of the City Council. In accordance with this policy, the application process was posted for 30 days and each council member has received and reviewed the applications submitted for each commission. Tonight, we're going to have each council member identify their candidates that they would like to nominate for both the Planning Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission. And so they are, those who have been nominated are in attendance tonight. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I will turn it over to you to walk the council through the nomination and selection process before you tonight. And so what we will do is highlight the names as we go district in numerical order, wrapping up with the mayor's final recommendation. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you to start us off with District 1.
Perfect. I am trying to find my, and I apologize, hold on. I have a script, so here we go. Okay. So in order to, I guess, try to seem more transparent, we asked if the districts would pick people from their district to apply and then give the recommendation to the mayor. And then we were going to move forward. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to let, if you want to speak, you can speak, and we'll give you 2 minutes. But all the council members already interviewed everyone that they put on their, on the agenda. And then we'll let them speak if they want. Then we'll close that. We'll go to public comment, let public comment. And then we'll close that, come back, and then we'll individually go through each district. And we will, we'll make a nomination of who that district person wants. And if we all agree, then we'll vote on it, and then we'll move to the next district. So we will start in order. Councilmember Stockton, if you'd like to introduce your first applicant, and then if they want to speak, they can, by all means. Go ahead, Councilmember Stockton.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone that applied. District 1 had 16 people that applied, including 8 that were currently serving on the commissions, 4 on the Planning Commission and 4 on the Parks and Rec Commission. I interviewed everyone, had some incredible conversations, and was placed into a very difficult position to make a selection. I wanted to just make sure that I thanked those that have been serving on the commissions. They've done a tremendous job, and this was extremely, extremely difficult for me to narrow down to just one for each, but I did. And my nomination for the Planning Commission is Mr. Brandon Klein. Mr. Klein, would you like to take your 2 minutes to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Roy, and I very much appreciate the nomination. I accept it. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Brandon Klein. I've been vice chair of the commission for the last year. In my first term as a planning commissioner, I have enjoyed getting to know all of my colleagues, and I think that the momentum that we've established on the commission is headed in the right direction. I got involved in the Planning Commission because I wanted to make sure that we weren't turning into a community of haves and have-nots. I believe that we can all have the best schools, and we can have the best parks, and we can have the best planning. And I think that our everyone who lives here deserves to have an equal shot. So with that, I appreciate the nomination, Roy, and I thank the council for those of you who I've gotten a chance to speak to and get to know. I very much enjoyed getting to know each of you, and I appreciate the vote of confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Councilmember Stockton, for your parks.
Yes, and for, yes, thank you. Again, another difficult decision, had 4 Parks and Rec commissioners from District 1, as well as the folks from the public that applied, you know, narrowed it down to Mr. Sean Mcmahon. So if Sean is on, I would love for him to introduce himself quickly and tell us a little bit about himself.
Go Go ahead, Sean.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Sean Mcmahon. I've been a resident of Vacaville for 25 years, retired Air Force aviator. Currently work as a civilian flight instructor out at Travis. I've had the privilege of serving on our Parks and Rec Commission for nearly 5 years now, where I've served as the chair as the last 2 years. During my tenure on the commission, we've accomplished a lot, and I know there's much to be done. Recently, I've been excited to see our parks on the agenda and getting the much needed attention from our city council. Together, we will continue to improve our parks, maintenance procedures, as well as upgrades and improvements needed to better serve our community and its residents, ensuring accessibility, diversity, and inclusion. Over the past 5 years, I've been appointed to several committees and interview panels, working with fellow commissioners, council members, city staff, consultants, and our local citizens. One of my most satisfying tasks on this commission was our recently passed Parks and Recreation Master Plan, clarifying our path forward. I'm an absolutely strong proponent of a sports complex in Vacaville. The time is now. We are missing an opportunity to put our youth on competitive sports fields. We are missing an opportunity to host tournaments in our city. We're missing an opportunity to generate revenue in our city. If we delay, one of our neighboring cities will put a sports field in their, a sports complex in their town. Lastly, I would just like to say thank you to our Parks and Recreation staff for their tireless efforts to improve the quality of life for our residents. And I'd also like to thank Councilmember Stockton for your trust in my nomination, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to District 2. Councilmember Ritchie.
So much. I will start with the Planning Commission. This was, first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate and really thank the community. Councilmember Stockton came before, but all the councils saw an explosion of people reaching out and wanting to apply to either Parks and Recs or Planning Commission to really show their desire to serve the city. It was amazing to see how many people actually applied and wanted to step up and take action to be a part of this great community. I have narrowed down my Planning Commission out of the many interviews I had to actually 2 current Planning Commissioners, Michael Fortney and Jen Aldrich. They both served on the commission and done an amazing job. So this was also very difficult, just narrow down to these 2. Then we can move on to Parks and Rec.
No, hold on. Oh, hold on. Does Michael Fortney or Jan Aldridge want to say any words? I'm going to say no, or is it? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time looking.
Hello, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight and to give you an opportunity of why I wish to remain on the Planning Commission. Firstly, I believe strongly in community involvement, and I've raised 3 daughters here in Vacaville, and I constantly preach to them the importance of community service. This is just another opportunity for me to role model what I have been preaching to my children. Secondly, my professional career allows me to work with landowners, developers, engineers, public agencies throughout Northern California in regards to entitlements and the entitlement process. I watch and listen to the big picture, and I pay attention as to what this council's vision is for the future. I will keep economic development in the forefront, encourage citizen input, and support policies that will ensure a variety of housing, stock, and affordability. And lastly, I want to play a role in shaping the development of the city that I live in and that I love. I believe that I bring a unique skill set to the commission, and my obligation as a commissioner is to set aside my personal preferences and prejudices, protect the public, follow the general plan, and make the right decision, not the popular one. I want to thank you for your time, and a special thanks to Councilman Ritchie for the trust in this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Jan under Lorraine? Jan, are you there? Okay. Let's move.
I'm here.
Are you there? Okay, good. Thank you, Jan. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Rolette and City Council members. Oh, I've been so nervous about this. I don't know why, because I talk on TV all the time. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I've lived in Vacaville for the past 46 years, and I have served on the Planning Commission from 1997 to 2003, and from 2013 to the present. I've certainly seen a lot of changes in Vacaville. I think my longevity, knowledge, and experience in planning and city government will continue to be my greatest asset in moving forward if I'm selected. We have an incredible community development director and planning staff who make our jobs so easy to be accomplished. We have many projects in Vacaville right now, and a lot are in District 2. I'm especially interested in the Green Tree Project, the Jepson Parkway Extension, the Play for All Park, the farm at Alamo Creek, Brighton Landing, and of course, the Urban Reserve. I do live east of Leisuretowne Road. We have a growing population of seniors in our community. I happen to live in an over 55 single home community myself. And I think all of the residents of our population should be represented on the various commissions. And I am proud to be a senior and fill that role. It has been my pleasure to serve on the commission for all these years, and I certainly hope to represent my fellow senior communities and the rest of Vacaville and serve in the future. Thank you very much for this nomination. Councilman Ritchie, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you for all you've done for Vacaville. Okay, Councilmember Ritchie, do you want to do the Parks and Rec?
Yes. So for Parks and Recs, we had another amazing amount of applicants. Narrowed down from the field to, sorry if I pronounced the name incorrectly. I say Aisha, but it's Isa Gutierrez and Christina Meek. These are just two amazing people from our community, and I'd love to hear them speak.
Okay. Aisha, are you available? Are you online?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. And I echo Jan, super nervous. Don't know why, but I'm just going to jump in. Thank you, Mayor, city staff, and council members. My name is Aisha Gutierrez. I am currently serving as one of your Parks and Rec commissioners. I'm here to request to be reselected for the 22-23 year in District 2. Parks and Rec programs and facilities provide vital health benefits, both mental and physical, encourage family and community bonding, create safer neighborhoods, promote economic advancement, and environmental awareness. I'm completing my first one-year term, but the work is just beginning. I've been able to use my 20 years of recruiting and HR experience to offer suggestions to the Parks and Rec team to assist with the pandemic-induced staffing issues. Several of those suggestions were implemented. During my 2 years as a downtown Vacaville staff member, I assisted with planning and implementation of large-scale community events. I've also created, planned, or participated in several cultural events hosted in Andrews Park as a community member, such as the first ever MLK Day of Service, Pride, and Black History Month celebrations. I bring all of that special events knowledge to the table when I work with the Parks and Rec team, recently served as a member of the 2022 Creek Walk Band Selection Committee. My HR skills and knowledge of downtown came together while interviewing candidates for the Arts Advisory Committee last summer. As a community member, I used my connections with the Sierra Vista PTC to get Zoom meetings that affected that area added to the school newsletters. As a born and raised Vacavillian, mother of 5, wife of Marine veteran, and woman of color, I am deeply invested in Vacaville as it is my hometown. Now that COVID limitations are lifting, I'm excited for a healthy 2022 in our parks and facilities. I'm also looking forward to encouraging more diversity and inclusion in Parks and Rec initiatives, and our public art, community events, and classes. I hope you reselect me tonight so I can continue what I started as your commissioner. Thank you so much for your consideration, and thank you, Councilman Ritchie, for your nomination.
And so for those folks that don't know, Aisha and I, we grew up together, went to the same high school, and she is amazing. And we thank you for reapplying for the position. Thank you. Is Christina Meek online?
Hello, I'm here.
There you are. Go ahead.
Hi. Good evening, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and fellow citizens. I'm Christina Meek. I've been a resident of Vacaville for over 30 years. I'm a realtor with a local family-run business and a mother of 2 kids. Both my career and kids have led me to become heavily involved in the community. I've always been a part of each of their school's PTO, helping run fundraisers and parent-teacher involvement events. In addition, I've been on the board for the Spanish immersion program at Markham, Wildcat Night at Wolsey Wood, and the School Site Council for Vacaville. My husband and I attend many fundraiser events in our community, and I've become well connected between serving my clients as a realtor and networking with other professional colleagues. My involvement with those events and boards have been driven by wanting to make this city and schools a better place for not just my family, but other families who call Vacaville their home. I believe I can bring many new ideas and a fresh outlook to the Parks and Recreation Commission. While I believe our parks are in great shape as they are, there is room for improvement always. Some ideas I have now are more shade at our play structures, more opportunity in playground for special needs children, and I have some safety concerns at Andrews Park. In addition, some water features like Magnolia Park, I think would be a great asset to many of our parks. As far as recreation goes, I'd love to expand on the vast opportunities it currently offers, and I have some ideas for upgrading our community pool, more summer camp opportunities, and opening a sports complex in Vacaville. I'm excited to have the opportunity to work on this commission with others, bring new ideas to the table, and serve the Vacaville community. It is my intent to keep Vacaville a beautiful, safe, and nice place to live for families. I thank Councilmember Greg Ritchie for this nomination, and I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much, Christina, for applying. I appreciate it. We'll move to District 3.
Hello, everyone. As the elected representative of District 3, and kind of with the shared goals that I was elected upon, and as well as the strategic goals that the council has set forward, out of the different applicants that applied, there's another applicants that applied actually outside the district. I felt that Noel Vargas would be one of the best candidates to actually represent the folks and different experiences for those who live in District 3. I'm really proud of the different challenges that he's overcome and the ability for him to pursue his career and remain dedicated to our community through the different types of social work that he's been involved in, his background and understanding of public safety, and again, his overall commitment to our community. That also includes the how to serve our seniors. So together, I'd like to introduce and nominate Noel Vargas for Planning Commission for District 3.
Councilmember Silva, does Noel, does he live in your district? Is that what you said?
He lives in District 6.
Okay. Is he available?
He is on the call.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Rowlett, Vice Mayor Roberts, council members, and citizens of the city of Vacaville. My name is Noel Vargas, an 18-year resident of the city of Vacaville, here today to demonstrate my commitment to a city and its community, who I've come to love dearly as to why I'm the ideal candidate for such a prominent position as commissioner. Academically speaking, I hold a criminal justice degree from Sacramento State University and master's degrees in organizational leadership, public administration from UMass Global University. My employment background is versatile and includes technical positions in the nonprofit, public, and private sectors. My government career spans 17 years, primarily as an investigator with Child Protective Services, including a specialty assignment with the Vacaville Police Department as part of the Family Investigative Response Services team. Before my departure from the County of Solano, I was Health Services Manager with oversight of the Vacaville County Clinic, as well as the mobile medical and dental clinics. I also served in the capacity of union steward and participated in contract negotiations at all levels. In January of 2019, I accomplished a professional goal and accepted a managerial position with Kaiser Permanente. Throughout my Kaiser Permanente career, I have managed highly clinical departments and healthcare clinics, served on local and regional committees, collaborating and leading physicians, administrators, and high-level leadership on projects and ventures that have yielded Kaiser Permanente high returns, consistent revenue streams, while improving their overall quality of patient care. My philanthropic endeavors include positions with Solano Family Justice Center, Community Advisory Board of Solano County, Senior Coalition of Solano County, and National Executive Committee for Nu Alpha Kappa Fraternity Alumni Association. However, and perhaps most importantly, I am the parent of a 6-year-old who participates in various City of Vacaville events and programs. I also serve as coach on many of his activities and teams. Recently, I attended the Recreation Expo at the Ulata Center and have firsthand experienced what this great city has to offer its families. It goes without stating that the appointment to a commissioner position is a vital process. and one that requires detailed evaluation of a candidate, as these positions have impact on the current and future state of the city. Like most residents in Vacaville, I have a vast interest in the city's plans for growth and service expansion, which has brought me here today before this resolute city council and the Vacaville residents overall. In closing, I would like to thank Jeanette Wiley and Mike Silva for the nomination, the entire city council, and the citizens of the city of Vacaville for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I'm confident that my background, experience, education, and dedication will lead to a successful tenure as commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Silva, you have planning and not planning, Parks and Rec
Yes.
nomination.
So on behalf of the community of District 3, I'm proud to nominate Danielle Shea to represent not just District 3, but the city of Vacaville. I believe her background in education, her family dedication to our parks and recreation programs, and her understanding of how to not just design, but also implement various curriculum will be a valuable asset into how we continue to support what's working well and improve where we can with all different realms within our parks and recreation. So I'd proudly like to nominate Danielle Shea. Danielle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City staff, participants. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Danielle Shea. I'm a lifelong Vacaville resident and a special education teacher here at Kairos. I'm a community advocate and community organizer, and I'm a mother of 4 young boys. And our family are all heavy consumers of parks and recreation programs. So we know how important a robust parks and rec offering is in maintaining healthy, vibrant community. And I certainly know what services and programs made our lives easier, like our 3 Oaks preschool years. I also know that local government works best when it is supported by an engaged citizenry. And I have a strong belief that anyone that wants to enjoy the benefits of being part of society also has the responsibility of helping to support and maintain that society. I would be honored to fulfill my duty of service to the city of Vacaville and my fellow residents as a Parks and Recreation Commissioner. I'm uniquely qualified to perform the duties of commission work, thanks in part to my professional experience. I spent most of my time as a case manager communicating with other team members and facilitating student services and meetings. I also spent a significant amount of time collecting and analyzing data and using it to find creative solutions to problems and to remediate deficits with minimal supplies. I don't think you'll find anyone more resourceful or creative than a special education teacher. And I just would like to conclude my statement this evening by thanking the mayor, staff, and council again for the opportunity to introduce myself.
Danielle, thank you so much for applying. We will move to District 4.
Yeah,
Councilmember Sullivan.
Yep,
Yes,
ready.
sir.
So a couple opening comments. I think, the good news and the bad news with this whole process. The great news is that we received, I think, 32 applications for planning and then 31 applications for Parks and Rec for 7 positions respectively each. That's huge. That's the most commission applications I think I've seen since I've been on council, since I paid attention, and since I was a commissioner myself. So we have lots of people that are interested. That's fantastic. The bad news is it's a really hard decision to whittle down your one choice from 31 or 32 people, especially when you have such great incumbents that have been doing such an excellent job. I think the other point I want to bring up really quickly is the distribution of those candidates was not equal or divided evenly. And so in some districts you had 9, 8, 7 candidates, and in other districts you had 1, you had 2, so in 2 districts in particular, and we sort of talked about this as we talked about districts. For whatever reason, we just did not have people come out to apply for these positions. And so in some cases, you had no incumbents in a district at all reapplying. And in some cases, I think I had 1. And so it's just a really hard decision. And I think even with districts, it's sort of complicated because, when you've got 9 candidates versus 1, it's hard. But the good news is we built the flexibility and the policy to look, around the city if we had to. So the closing comment I have on that, and I'm hoping that maybe council agrees with me here, we had some really good candidates who won't be selected tonight. We had some really good incumbents who might be bumped off, unfortunately. I would love to see us talk about the committee process and talk about getting some of these folks who may be interested but don't have a whole lot of experience or any experience with our commissions on committees. I know at one point in time, I think the city of Vacaville had a citizens academy. I met some really interesting people in my interviews that were just super new and fresh and interested, but didn't have the background for some of the key issues we're dealing with yet. How do we sort of groom these folks that are very interested, that maybe don't have the familiarity yet? How do we kind of bring them up to speed and give them a chance to get involved and kind of grow into those great commissioners that I know they'll be someday? So I'd like to talk about committees and a Citizens Academy at some point in time. We have some awesome folks that could be involved. So with no further ado, I'm going to dive right into Planning Commission. So Ralph Lightfoot, great local commissioner. He's been on now for a full term. He works in the local construction industry. I think the thing I like about Ralph is that I see a lot of Ralph in myself. He lives in my district. He's a young father. He's got kids in school. He uses the parks, you know, just like I use the parks. He's very familiar with our bike trail issues, the homeless issues we have impacting our parks and rec. And he's got a big heart. He's a very conscientious guy. And I think he represents a lot of young Vacaville families. And I really appreciate that lens that he brings to the commission. The second is Wendy Brecken. Wendy is a force of nature. She is a research machine. If you send her a 787-page packet, I guarantee you she's read every single page of it. She's highlighted it. She's had conversations. She's a researcher. She really cares deeply about the city. And just her level of commitment, her level of research, and her level of compassion for issues that, quite frankly, can be very dry and boring is incredibly commendable. So I've recommended those two tonight as my commission recommendations for Planning Commission, and I think they're both on the line.
Great, thank you, Councilmember. We'll start with Lightfoot, if he's on. There he is. Go ahead, clear your mute. There you are.
Good evening, Council, and Councilmember Sullivan. I really appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate your consideration for this opportunity. I'm Ralph Lightfoot. I'm a lifelong resident of Vacaville. I grew up in and I currently live in District 4 with my wife and our 4 children. I attended Payton Elementary and I graduated from Wilsonwood High School. Overall, I've lived in District 4 for over 30 years. I'm active in our community. I donate my time to multiple youth sports programs, which have been a great tool to connect with Vacaville families, and it's helped me gain insight into the needs of Vacaville citizens. My career has been spent in the construction industry. I've been a project manager on a wide range of construction projects, including DSA school projects and mixed-use commercial projects across the state of California. I see firsthand how other municipalities are approaching and building to tackle the same issues that face Vacaville. I've served on the Planning Commission for the past 2 years, and I've recognized that my preferred approach is collaboration. I'm currently a member of the Housing Element Subcommittee, and we've used an open dialogue to take in multiple perspectives. And I hope to collaborate further on projects with that same approach. My sole reason for being a member of the Planning Commission is to give back to my hometown. I love this city, and I don't plan on leaving. I hope to be a voice for my neighbors and to use my experience to benefit the whole community. Thank you. I'd be honored with your nomination. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Wendy, are you there? Wendy?
You hear me?
There you are. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'd also like to thank Nolan for such a nice introduction. Thank you all for the opportunity to interview. It's an honor and I appreciate your consideration. I lived here for 31 years. A mom and grandma and an attorney and a wife of a former deputy sheriff. My daughter is a doctor. So I'm familiar with a number of subject area. Why do I want to continue to be a planning commissioner? I think it's about giving back to the community. And this has been talked about that, you know, for years I was commuting, working, and didn't have time to look around and see what was going on. And as soon as I did, I wanted to have an impact. I've also, as a planning commissioner, advocated for the Housing Element Subcommittee and was a member of that with Ralph Lightfoot, and we worked well together. And I had a good experience on the Planning Commission. I think the biggest point I want to make is that basically the city's vision is to balance the citizens' needs and desires to achieve the highest possible quality of life given our resources. And so with each and every project that comes forward, I'm looking at is the project that's coming forward, are the citizens that are going to live in that project, are they going to have a functioning quality of life? Are they going to have, stores, grocery stores near them, connected pathways? Are they going to have good parks near a school? And then also what is the impact of that project to neighboring communities? And it's a complex decision-making process. I've learned a lot while I'm planning commissioner. I use my training as an attorney to analyze all the facts and read all the documents and talk with people. And I think I'd like bring up issues so that the city council is aware of all the issues when they go to vote, and make the best decision I can as far as recommending whether the project is a go or a no. Some of the things that I consider during the planning commission meetings is being transparent, because the public has a right to know what the issues are, and also to maintain that small town feel. How does the project feel? And what are the impacts? In short, I think that we need to make Vacaville an even better place to live. I love living here, and it's important to do all we can to make it even a better community. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Councilmember Sullivan, Parks and Rec, please.
So Parks and Rec, so we heard from Aisha earlier today. She is in District 2. And the reason I selected Aisha primarily is because she lives on the border of my district and Councilmember Ritchie's district, experiences many of the same neighborhood issues that we experience. She's got a great pulse on my neighborhood. And again, it's just across the borderline there for us. Also super impressed with her community involvement, her downtown experience, and really just her experience with events and multicultural opportunities and the bid and all of the work she's been doing on the commission. It's the direction Vacaville has been heading, and I want to see more of that. And she just reinforces that skill set. I just think it's vitally important. My second is Keith Thompson. Keith has become a huge asset for me and for the city. My district is basically sort of park. There's not a ton of parks. There's some neighborhood parks, but we're sort of ringed by major sporting fields. So you've got Keating, Alpatch, and Nelson Park, which all sort of surround my district or in my district. And, it's a big issue for us in my district in particular. There's also a lot of issues in my district with neighborhood parks and school field issues and field management and the leagues and the city and all these different things. And Keith is just a wonderfully knowledgeable guy when it comes to all things team sports. He's a critical thinker. He is also a diplomat. He can walk into a very tense situation and kind of help diffuse things between, folks. They get kind of upset and frustrated, and he's used to dealing with those crazy sports parents through his experience in youth sports. And I've just found him to be a very conscientious and smart guy. And again, he's become a huge asset to me, the commission, and the city, I think, in sort of furthering our team sports process. He's just a wealth of knowledge there. So I nominated those two tonight. They're both rock stars, and I really appreciate everything they do, as well as all of our other commissioners.
Great. So Aisha already spoke, so we'll just go to Keith. Keith, are you there?
Yes, I am, Mayor. Thank you. And thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman Sullivan. I appreciate the confidence in me and the nomination. I was originally appointed to the Parks and Recreation Commission in March of 2020. Unfortunately, my entire term as a commissioner has been during the pandemic. In spite of COVID, during this time, the commission has reviewed and provided input to several programming changes and pivots to provide recreational opportunities to our community. A few of the more significant projects I am proud of are the citywide Parks and Recreation Master Plan and also master plans for the Nelson and Alpatch Parks. This has all been a huge team effort, and I can only imagine what we can accomplish post-pandemic. Since August 2020, I've been the commission liaison to the Youth Sports Advisory Team, working with league representatives and city staff to maintain sports programming within our local leagues, with our local league boards of directors. My passion and the reason I'm seeking reappointment for the Parks and Recreation Commission is youth sports. I'm also a fan of the Vacaville Sports Complex. In my opinion, the youth are our future. Providing opportunities for team building, character building, enrichment, and lifelong goal setting is crucial to developing future leaders and successful adults. Sports programs provide a sense of community, teaches individuals and teams to work through adversity and how to drive to be successful. If reappointed, my goal is to continue using the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as a guide and work to provide diverse and inclusive opportunities for all of our community. Thank you for the council. Thank you for the nomination to Councilman Sullivan, and thank you to all council members for the opportunity to serve you again as Parks and Recreation Commissioner.
Great. District 5.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to keep the session short because I know we have quite a few more names to go through and another voting process on this. I just wanted to echo some of what Councilmember Sullivan said about, yeah, there was a lot of applications this time. I think for my district alone, I had 7 for Parks and Rec and 6 for planning. And so there's quite a few people that want to be involved that will not be able to get to be involved as part of commission at this time. So yeah, I'd like to see some way for those that want to be involved in the city. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to the nominees and let them introduce themselves and explain why they would like to be on the commission.
Great, thank you very much. Ed, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Vice Mayor Roberts and City Council for this opportunity. My name is Edward Labonte. I've spent 18 years in the fire service, both in paid and volunteer positions. Most of my career has been centered around emergency preparedness, with my background being in security, most of which has been in a public setting, whether in professional sports or public settings where we're dealing with the public. I really miss the opportunity to give back to the community, and I am hoping to be able to join the Planning Commission to be able to do that. I've been in the city now for a few years, having moved from the East Coast. I have 3 grown children, a stepdaughter, and 2 grown sons. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ed. Is Robert available? There he is. Go ahead, Robert. You're on mute right now. There you go. Nope, still mute.
Yeah.
There you are. Go ahead.
All right.
Robert.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank the mayor, vice mayor, and council members for the opportunity to interview for the Planning Commission position. Just a little bit on my background. I've been in the construction trade ever since I've been out of high school. I started out in the laborers union, went on through the carpentry vocational program, graduated from that in 1982. I've worked in both residential and commercial construction my whole life. I ended up as a estimator, estimating projects for building schools and running projects that were up to in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 million projects. Been involved with builders, manufacturers, design teams, architects, in helping figure out the specifications for projects before bid time to ensure they're had the proper specifications together and design. I also have served as a sports official for 40 years with the Sacramento basketball group. I ended up being the assigner of the group. Over the years, what that has done for me, it's really helped with any conflict and issues that come up. I was the person that dealt with the schools, the state, and the local CIF section. The reason I wanted to get in or wanted to apply for this position, I've had friends in different cities that were on planning commissions and said they just loved being in and helping their cities. And that is something I would really like to be involved with helping the city of Vacaville. I've lived here for 28 years. I have 2 sons, that one graduated from each high school in town, and just enjoy serving and helping people and helping the city of Vacaville. And I wanted to thank Councilman Roberts for the opportunity to interview for this position.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Roberts, Parks and Rec.
Yes, Parks and Rec was, I had quite a few more applications and interviews I did. There's a lot of qualified candidates for this position. And so before, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to the applicants to tell a little bit about their background and why they wanted to apply to the Parks and Rec Commission.
Great. Mary, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor Rolette, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Mary Vasquez, she, her, hers. I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to express interest in reappointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission. I'm hoping to be reappointed to the commission tonight so that I can continue to serve respectively in District 5, but to also be a voice for all of Vacaville. As I shared in my application, I have a history of service, and my family, as many of you know, has a long history of contribution to our great community. As a current Parks and Rec Commissioner and Vice Chair, I have been committed to being engaged in the process of city governance, as well as being very thorough in my review of materials and park master plans. With my background, professional experience, and education, I am a commissioner who will ask hard questions about items being presented to engage in further thought and consideration for projects. I provided extensive edits and suggestions during the review and revision of the Parks and Rec Master Plan, including adding a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion when looking at our parks and recreation programs. I want us to provide an equitable Parks and Rec experience to everyone in Vacaville, regardless of where you live in town. As a commissioner, I encourage community outreach that expands beyond the typical types of outreach to ensure that those who live in those respective communities have access to engage and are heard. I also serve as the Parks and Rec rep on the Arts Advisory Committee and am excited about the future of revising the arts and public places policy, as well as how this will continue to unfold potentially in our downtown improvement plan and potentially new project ideas that staff have for art and public places. I'm very committed in serving as a commissioner now and previously. I am often at many parks with my 3 young kids who are involved in recreation programs through the city and sports league. This places us at various parks around town frequently and gives me opportunities to do site walks and observe. I'm looking forward to being involved in all the upcoming renovations to various neighborhood parks, especially with the allocation of Measure M funds. I'd love to continue my service on Parks and Rec, and thank you for the nomination.
Thank you, Mary. Dylan, are you available? You have to take yourself off mute, Dylan.
Unmute. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason, Mr. Mayor, and council members. It's truly a pleasure to be here this evening, and I'm humbled by the opportunity to serve as a Parks and Recreation Commissioner for the city of Vacaville. My name is Dylan Butterbaugh. I'm a 5-year resident here in Vacaville, living in town with my wife, Victoria, where we raise our 18-month-old son, Milo. I'm a licensed landscape architect with 10 years of experience in a wide array of public and private development projects with specific expertise in park design, parks and recreation master planning and programming, community outreach, and stakeholder advocacy. And I worked on projects including All Abilities Playgrounds, multi-generational recreation facilities with budgets up to $7 million. I believe my strong technical expertise as a landscape architect will be invaluable as Vacaville navigates this time of abundant growth and the fundamental changes that are necessary to our park system to continue to serve our residents. My motivation for joining the commission is twofold. First, Parks and Recreation has been instrumental in my own personal and professional growth from as early as I can remember. I want those same opportunities afforded to my son as he grows up, and to all my fellow citizens who deserve the same access and opportunities. Second, Vacaville is a special place with rich recreation opportunities, an expansive park system, and the vibrant downtown core with events and amenities we can all be proud of and which I've personally had much enjoyment in. But that's something we can't take for granted, and I don't think it happens by accident either. With our growing and changing population, influx of new development projects, and slew of upgrades needed in our aging park system, we have a challenge ahead of us, but we also have an opportunity to invigorate our parks, foster economic development, to generate revenue, promote health and well-being for our citizens, and continue to create community and camaraderie, and ensure consistent and quality access to all. As a Parks and Rec Commissioner, I would leverage my technical knowledge of parks maintenance, design, and programming to provide insightful and critical feedback on current and future park planning applications to forward the vision of the recently updated Parks Master Plan. I will serve as an advocate for my neighbors in District 5 and all citizens of Vacaville with a particular focus on ensuring our parks continue to remain robust, inclusive, accessible, and maintainable for us today and for our children and anyone who chooses to call Vacaville home in the future. Thank you very much for the nomination and the opportunity to serve as a Parks and Rec Commissioner. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie Roberts, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Roberts, any relation to Charlie Roberts?
No, sir, just last week.
Thank you. Charlie, are you there?
I am, sir. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Great. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Charlie Roberts, and I live in District 5 in Vacaville, California. Most folks call me Chuck. I have asked to be considered for a Parks and Recreation Commissioner position because, well, I have an unexplainable desire for Terry, my wife of 38 years, to call me Mr. Commissioner around the house. Now, that's a ridiculous thought, but the list of qualifications to stay married for 38 years is extensive and includes some desirable traits: loyalty, adaptability, and being a team player, just to mention a few. As a citizen of Vacaville, I want you to know that I sincerely hope that you choose persons with the most selfless motivations and applicable talents to fill these commission seats. It is, after all, only about creating positive end results for the community that are most important, not my or anyone else's personal aspirations. What is my motivation? Children and families, mine, yours, and the people you represent. I'm currently on the board of directors for the Vacaville Police Activities League. In that capacity, I believe you would find that I ask questions, hard questions that must be answered before good decisions can be rendered. I have the ability to look at the situations and proposals from multiple perspectives, and I always have the public relations aspect front of mind. I want you to know that I'm not afraid of zeros. As a financial advisor for 23 years, I have had accumulatively just under $100 million in assets under management. I am fortunate at this time to have a really brilliant team of young people handling daily operations, which affords me the opportunity to do what I love best: building and strengthening relationships. In regards to the recreation piece, I spent 15 years in the entertainment industry. The last 8 of those years were involved with entertainment productions and logistics in Nashville, which I hope would be of value. I'll end by saying, as a professional musician, which I am, I hope to get an opportunity to meet Dylan Butterball. Great bass players are always looking for great drummers. Thank you, Councilman Roberts, and thank you all for your time and attention.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, we'll move to District 6, and we're getting close.
All right, I will just say that I was also very excited to be able to interview the people in District 6. There were 9 people that I talked to, and that's double what we had last year. I did not have any incumbents because no one from District 6 was currently on either planning or Parks and Rec. So it'll be nice to have a person from District 6 on each of those commissions, I hope, when we're finished with this. Everyone I talked to had a wide range of skills, and I was really touched because everyone talked about their willingness to serve and their desire to serve to make Vacaville the best it could be. And the citizens, the people who applied also ranged from people who had been here just 3 years to people who had, grown up here. So I think it's really great, since there's so much, new housing in District 6, that the people moving in want to be a part of Vacaville. With no further ado, then I'll introduce Amanda Rudin from Planning Commission. And then, since Noel spoke earlier, he won't speak again, but Noel also, I talked with him as well. So we're ready for Amanda.
Thank you, Council Member Wiley. I 100% agree with you. I love doing these interviews. Everybody's excited. Everybody loves Vacaville, and I appreciate that you mentioned that. So Amanda, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Amanda Rodin, and I'd first like to thank Councilmember Wiley for the nomination. I'm a relative newcomer to Vacaville, but I do come with planning commission experience. My family, we moved up from Gilroy, so just the opposite end of the Bay Area, where I was a planning commissioner I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 young children, and my background is actually accounting, but I stopped to become a stay-at-home mom. My interest with the Planning Commission is land use and housing and land use laws, especially the changes in land use laws. I kind of keep tabs on ABAG and MTC and see what they're up to. And recently they've done the Bay Area 2050 plan. What I could bring to the Planning Commission is experience that I have, and like I said, my interest in housing, and I would like to serve on the commission to give back to the community, and also with my 3 young children, I'd like to show them that how important it is to give back as well. So I want to just wrap this one up really quick since I'm the last one.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Wiley, do you want to do your Parks and Rec?
Yes, I will, but I will add a little footnote to Amanda's. Before she moved to town, she was watching our Planning Commission meetings while she lived in Gilroy. So she was interested before she even got to Vacaville. So I thought that was pretty good. For Parks and Rec, again, I had excellent commission applications, and I have 2 people to put forward. Both, I think, would be excellent candidates. Blair Oz is our first one then. So Blair, go ahead.
Blair, you got to unmute yourself, sir. There you go. Go ahead, Blair.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Vice Mayor, council members. Again, my name is Blair Oz. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, Councilmember Wiley, for bringing forward my nomination. I have a personal passion and a professional passion for Parks and Recreation. Personally, I've had some great opportunities to serve the community over the years. I had a great opportunity to be a youth soccer coach for 4 years before I finally realized that the team really needed a much more talented soccer coach. I served on the Fairfield Parks and Recreation Commission as a commissioner, unfortunately for a very 1-year stint because the council dissolved the commission and moved the responsibilities to the Planning Commission at that time. But I also I served on the board of directors for the Fairfield Police Activities League and also the Citizens Advisory Committee for Rockville Hills Regional Park. It's through these some of these opportunities that I've really came to learn a lot and appreciate how Parks and Recreation enrich our lives. My professional passion stems from my work as a planner and public finance consultant. Over the last 20 years, I've had the opportunity to help cities, counties, and park and recreation districts across the state to establish new local funding for parks and recreation facilities and programs, generating millions of dollars either in one-time funds or ongoing annual funding. Also, through my professional work, I've been very fortunate to be a 20-year member of the California Parks and Recreation Society conference I'm actually attending tomorrow, and the California Association of Recreation and Park Districts. Having membership in these associations has really given me a real unique perspective and understanding of some of the challenges of in parks and recreation, some of the best practices of other communities. And lastly, I would just say that, through active participation and collaboration, I believe as a community, we can perhaps better connect residents to existing city parks and recreational opportunities that will enhance their quality of life. I think we can explore new programs and partnerships that will expand or enhance city parks and recreational opportunities, and do that while minimizing or reducing the impact on the city's general fund. And also, I think we can create new opportunities for our youth to keep them away
Hey,
from
Blair, can you wrap it up, Blair?
Yes. So thank you for your time this evening and considering my appointment.
Thank you. So Beth? And you're on mute. There you go. Go ahead, Beth.
Hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Roulette and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I moved here 45 years ago. I was raised here, have family here, and my husband and I have raised our daughter here. I grew up in the north part of town and have now lived in the south part of town for 16 years. Parks and Recreation in Vacaville is a proud part of my professional past. I worked in the Vacaville Parks and Recreation Department as a UC Davis College student, and then after college graduation as a professional in a full-time capacity for 6 years. As a parent, I've utilized numerous department programs over the years. I had the unique experience of coordinating the Leadership Vacaville program through the Chamber of Commerce. The program allowed local business people and leaders a behind-the-scenes education about numerous aspects of Vacaville. As inspiring as the program was for the participants, it was a continual inspiration for me. It solidified my belief that being involved in the community is important and rewarding. After 3 years with the Chamber, I began what has turned into almost 10 years with Visit Vacaville. Every day, I have the privilege of sharing with visitors why Vacaville is a great place to live and visit. During the past 16 years, I served as 2 PTA presidents, the Superintendent Advisory Board, and on 2 site councils in the Travis Unified School District. Recently, I was on the board of the Vacaville Ballet Company, and I'm wrapping up a term as the Vanden High Drama Booster Club president. It's important to be a well-informed community member, and I take every opportunity to keep up with public meetings, read the local paper, and stay informed about the city's future plans. I've considered applying for the Parks and Recreation Commission for several years, and now I feel I have the time and attention that serving requires. I'm seeking service on the commission because I know what a good, effective, and vital Parks and Recreation Department can do for a community. And also, as a 16-year resident of District 6, I understand the district's unique place in the city. We have students from the smaller school district in town, new growth, and exceptional parks and facilities. I'm happy and anxious to see my neighborhood represented on the commission. And I just want to thank you for your consideration and time, and thank Councilman Wiley for the nomination.
And how exciting it is to have you apply for this position. Also, Beth and I went to high school together, grew up together, and she's been an advocate outside any of these commissions. She's done great things for Vacaville, and I appreciate you applying. Okay, so we'll move to my appointments. Do I not see it? Okay, I didn't see it come up, sorry. So for the Planning Commission, I have John Wilkerson. And John, are you there? Are you with us tonight?
Yes,
there you are. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is John Wilkerson, and I have applied to be a part of the Planning Commission. I was born here in Vacaville in 1980, when Vacaville roughly had about 40,000 people. My parents raised us in our first home just off of Jennifer Lane, where we stayed there till I was 8 years old. At that time, my parents bought a new home way across town where my brother and I considered to be the country. We currently know it as Browns Valley. My wife and I currently live in Browns Valley and are raising our 2 beautiful children, Aria and Kobe. Our kids are 3rd generation Vacaville. My wife's father has been in Vacaville since 1948. Listening to him speak about the growth of Vacaville over the years brings a smile to my face, as he always reminds me, I remember when Vacaville only had stop signs. To see the growth of Vacaville over the years is great to see. We need to continue this growth, be mindful that it should be a place where local families can continue to afford to live, and we welcome people who want to move here because of all the amazing things this town has to offer. In my job as a realtor, I see many people moving to Vacaville all the time. I come from a family who has served this community since birth. My mother was the first youth services officer here in Vacaville, later became principal at Willis Jepson Junior High School, and she recently retired after becoming the associate superintendent with Vacaville Unified School District. My father is very active locally in Rotary and his fraternity Alpha Phi Alpha. I have served this community in many ways. I've been on the Youth Roundtable, part of the Culture Diversity Fair, and was a member of the Chamber's first Leadership Vacaville class, ran a nonprofit through the school district, and I've coached at Vacaville and Wilsey Wood High Schools. To say I have a vested interest in this town would be an understatement. I believe I'm qualified to be on this commission to help raise a broader range of people who reside in Vacaville. I thank you, Mayor, for my nomination.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. And then we have Ralph Bruman for Parks and Recreation. Ralph, you're on mute. Go ahead and unmute your mic. There you are. Go ahead, sir.
Am I on mute now?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead, sir.
I'm good. Okay. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Oh, hold on real quick. This thing. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Go ahead, sir. We can hear you.
I'm sorry about that.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, and staff. My name is Ralph Bruman, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to express my reasons for wanting to continue to be a commissioner with the Parks and Rec. During my commission, I was part of the Play for All Park Committee. I will report back the progress and needs of development of the park, which was great seeing the park come into life, which is going to be a great addition to our city, as you all know. As commissioner, I was part of a team of making sure we took our resident suggestions to mind by securing that public parks, cultural arts, community service programs are to meet the needs of our community. I would like to continue to use my management, public relations, and organization skills to increase visibility and success for my community. There's still a lot to do, and being a lifelong resident, my involvement, I want to continue to make a difference in my community. I'd like to thank you for commending me, Ron, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for all your commitment to this.
Lost your Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Nolan. I just wanted to thank Ralph for his commitment to Vacaville. And then I was opening up public comment. So if public comment's ready, we'll take public comment now. Go ahead, Lorraine B.
Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, city staff, and all council members and citizens. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to you to reappoint Wendy Brecken to City Planning Commission. Wendy has proven to be a tireless public servant, tackling issues on housing, equity, quality of life, and government transparency. Her years of service of the state of California as a lawyer has instilled that she research, study, and do analysis, shows in her well-reasoned input and approach. Wendy has a genuine passion and desire to work tirelessly to help all the people of Vacaville. I also, for my second consideration, would be Amanda Rudin. I have seen that even before she came and lived in Gilroy, she was avidly researching all cities and trying to come up with the best possible solutions for where she lived. And when she moved here, she has tirelessly come to our council meetings and engaged in all aspects of the public. And she wants a better life for her children. For Parks and Recs, I nominate Danielle Shea. Thank you. Sorry, I'm having a problem speaking.
No, you're fine. Thank you very much. I'm going to close public comment and I'm going to bring it back to the council. Now I'm going to instruct the council. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go District 1. Give me your planning commission #1 nomination. I don't need a second. We'll roll call vote. So I'll start with Councilmember Stockton. Who is your #1 recommendation?
So for planning commission, it is Mr. Brandon Klein.
Okay, and we'll roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. Now, Councilmember Stockton, who is your Parks nomination?
For Parks and Recreation, my nomination is Mr. Sean McMahon.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. We will move to District 2. Councilmember Ritchie, who is your nomination for Planning Commission?
My nomination is Michael Forley.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Yes.
And yes for me too.
Oh, and Mayor Roulette, sorry.
So we'll do your Parks and Rec. Councilmember.
Okay, my Parks and Rec's nomination is Aisha Gutierrez.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. Okay, we will move to District 3. Silva, Councilmember Silva, who is your nomination for planning?
Nomination for Planning Commission is Noel Vargas.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. Parks and Rec nomination, please.
For Parks and Recreation for District 3, Danielle Shea.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yeah, get it? Yeah.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. Councilmember Sullivan, please give me your Planning Commission nomination.
Got it. I wanted to say one quick thing. Incredibly hard decision in general. Again, 31 candidates, lots of candidates from out of district. We've had lots of discussions about districting and going to districts, and I've been a firm and strong supporter of the districting process. And Ralph really does probably represent a little more of my family, I guess, just in his life experience and where he lives. I am going to nominate Ralph Lightfoot tonight, but I just wanted to extend a super sincere and deep thank you to Wendy. You've been one of the best commissioners I've seen up there. I'm incredibly hard to turn you down, and I'm so grateful for your service, but I'm going to nominate Ralph for my district.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Stockton,
Like to echo the compliments to Miss Brecken. She's an amazing person, but my vote is yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
I totally understand what a difficult decision this is. I also will vote yes on Mr. Lightfoot.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. Parks and Rec.
I'm going to nominate Keith Thompson.
Okay, can we have roll call?
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Yes. Okay, District 5, Councilmember.
All right, for the District 5 Planning Commission, I'm going to nominate Ed Labonte.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Yes. And Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec nominee will be Mary Vasquez.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Yes. District, oh no, I'm sorry, Parks and Rec. I apologize. Did we do that already?
Yes, that was just Parks and Rec, sir.
I apologize. I don't have it up in front of me. So we'll move to the next district, District 6, please.
For planning, Amanda Rudin.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Yes. And Parks and Rec.
Again, these are such difficult decisions. I will say that we do have an opening on the Arts Advisory Committee. So anyone who didn't make it on the planning or Parks and Rec would please apply for the Arts Advisory Committee. And with that, I'm going to nominate Blair Oz to the Parks and Rec.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Yes. And for Planning Commission, I'm going to nominate John Wilkerson.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Yes. And for Parks and Rec, I'm going to nominate Ralph Bruman. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Yes. We'll move to item 9B. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This particular item relates to the appointment of 2 council members to the 2x2 Regional Homeless Subcommittee. There's also another portion to this request that Ms. Emily Cantu will explain to you that we'd like to defer. But with that, I'll turn it over to Emily Cantu from our Housing and Community Services Department.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Next slide, please. Yeah, I do need to start this presentation, as the city manager mentioned, requesting a revision to the actions for consideration this evening. That's because since the staff report was written, the homeless system of care analysis, that there is a request to contribute $5,000 towards, has been delayed for a further review of the initial scope of work, and also for some additional discussion on the timing of when that analysis might take place. At a later future council meeting, when and if applicable, staff could bring that back to you for future consideration. So the only action we're asking you to consider this evening is that the mayor appoint 2 council members to the Regional Homeless 2x2 Subcommittee. Next slide, please. So some background, the City Council has been very active in addressing homelessness in the city of Vacaville, also including county-wide efforts to address poverty and homelessness. The actions listed in the staff report and on the slide in front of you list some of the actions of note, not all. These include participating with Cap Solano Joint Powers Authority, receiving Section 8 vouchers for homeless individuals and families, the police department continuing having access to shelter beds, supporting the Clean Streets pilot program, and remediating homeless encampment sites as necessary. The COVID outbreak brought additional attention and also an urgency to addressing homelessness, including non-congregate sheltering, and that was to help prevent the spread of the virus and reduce impacts on hospitalizations. Next slide, please. The City Council's fully understood that urgency and added additional resources to the efforts by contributing to Project Room Key projects, including a Room Key project in Vacaville, funding a homeless prevention program through the Police Department Family Resource Center, supporting a winter sheltering program, and adding to the beds available for the police department to refer our homeless neighbors to. In addition, other efforts, the council members Stockton and Sullivan attended meetings of the Homeless 2x2 Ad Hoc Committee, which is different from the committee you're looking at this evening. That one was with Solano County Board of Supervisors representatives. Unfortunately, it was reported the county had to withdraw from participating and those meetings ceased. Most recently, the City Council and the community are considering potentially using a portion of ARPA funds towards efforts to address homelessness. Next slide, please. In addition to the efforts discussed and what's being done locally, Fairfield is also working on efforts to address homelessness. They formed a regional homeless 2x2 subcommittee. The intent is for the members to work collaboratively on a regional response to homelessness. Sassoon City, Vallejo, and Benicia have all officially appointed elected representatives to the subcommittee. Council members Stockton and Sullivan have attended meetings of the subcommittee. In part, the subcommittee has been working on and developing a regional navigation center plan. That plan considers several potential and important regional projects. One being looked at is to form a Solano Executive Commission on Homelessness. The intent of that commission would be to build on Cap Solano's work and focus on regional policy and implementation strategies. Other potential projects include the expansion of Shelter Solano in Fairfield to serve about 130 people, and potential new facilities and programs both in Vallejo to serve about 125 people, and a satellite type location that has not been determined in Vacaville to potentially serve about 20 people. Next slide. So again, this evening, staff recommends that the mayor appoint 2 city council members to the Regional Homeless 2x2 Subcommittee. Because the action has been revised, there is no physical impact. Next slide. That concludes my presentation, and as always, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm going to open up public comment. If anybody from the public wants to comment. I see one hand up. Marion.
It's Marion. Good evening,
Thank you.
City Council. I just want to support this. That's all. I think it's needed and we should support it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to close public comment, and I'm just going to let everyone know, everyone on this city council wants to be in this position. I only have 2 spots to give. Both council members Stockton and Sullivan have been instrumental, and they're doing a fantastic job. So I'm just going to continue to appoint those 2, and that's my motion. I do see Councilmember Ritchie's hand up. Councilmember Ritchie.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I just wanted to kind of, actually echo what you were saying. I had the opportunity to actually attend this this subcommittee meeting in Fairfield, and we all would love to be on the council, but on the council in this position. But I'm telling you, being in the crowd, I was very proud of Nolan Sullivan and Roy Stockton. They brought 2 amazing perspectives, really representing the city of Vacaville. It was a small room, but it had a big impact where there was 2 leaders from each city, and they really made Vacaville shine. Nolan had expertise in one area of homelessness, and Roy absolutely had other information. Together, they really covered kind of 2 spectrums to really make sure like Vacaville's represented at the table, and we really have 2 good guys here that can handle what their specific talents are to help us go forward. So it was good to see how Vacaville kind of measured up with other cities, and we're sitting pretty with them.
Awesome. I have a motion. Do you want to second that, Richie?
I will.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Mayor Rowlett.
Yes. 9C, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will turn it over to our fire chief for an update, and then he will give us an update, and then we'll begin discussions on the next steps.
Great.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm going to give you, as I usually do, the latest numbers. In California, just a little over 8.4 million cases. Good news is that rate at which it's growing is dropping quite a bit, so that's good news. 85,854 deaths. More good news, positivity, 7-day positivity state within the state is 1.9%. That's a drop of 0.7% from last week. In Solano County, we're at almost 84,000 cases, an additional to 575 from 2 weeks ago. The number of active cases has dropped to 456 cases, less than half of the number of active cases that we had just 2 weeks ago. Also, less than half of the number of people hospitalized with COVID at 31. That's 37 fewer than 2 weeks ago. And ICU availability has grown to 43%. And then there have been 8 additional deaths in the last 2 weeks at 402 deaths. 7-day positivity within Solano County is at 3.3%, and that's 1.1% less than it was 1 week ago. And Vacaville, we're at 21,442 cases. Next slide, please. Nationwide and the state, nothing has changed in the last 2 weeks. I'm going to skip over that. In the county, we have moved down from the high into the substantial tier because of the number of active cases we have, and 456 cases as of yesterday. And as I told you a couple weeks ago, City Hall has reopened for walk-in business, as well as the inside mask mandate has been rescinded, and now it's just highly recommended as far as masks inside are concerned. And with that, I'm going to pass this presentation along to our city attorney, Melinda Stewart.
Great. Thank you, Chief, and good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. As you are all very aware, the City Council and other public bodies have been meeting remotely since October of 2021, pursuant to the authority of AB 361, that's Assembly Bill 361, and the corresponding city resolution. That authority to meet remotely expires on March 12th, that's this weekend. And upon expiration, all council meetings and meetings of the Planning Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission will return to being conducted in person. But tonight, the council has the option of letting that remote meeting resolution expire, or in the alternative, as you've done over the past several months, you can extend the remote meeting resolution for up to another 30 days by making certain findings. And those findings are up on the slide. So the first is that a state of emergency is in effect. That's a state of emergency declared by the governor, and that is in fact still in effect. And the second finding that applies to the city council is that a state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability to meet safely in person. Next slide, please. So when making that determination of whether to return in person or to continue the remote meetings, you can consider several factors, and much of several of those factors were just discussed by the fire chief. That's, the COVID related numbers are really decreasing and very favorable. Mask mandates have been lifted. City Hall has been reopened to public business. And so all of those factors really support returning to in-person meetings. On the other hand, as the chief mentioned, Solano County still does remain, well, not still, but remains in the substantial transmission tier. And sorry for the typo there on the slide, but we are in the substantial transmission tier. Because of that, the CDC and also separately the state do continue to recommend the use of face coverings in indoor public settings, as well as in kind of high risk situations where there's the ability to congregate in close proximity and creates a higher risk for the spread of COVID. So those factors would support continuing remote meetings. So next slide, please. So tonight, if the council desires to return to in-person meetings, you do not have to take any action, and the resolution will expire this weekend, and then all public meetings as of next week will be in public. Or if you do desire to continue meeting remotely, then you would simply adopt the subject resolution. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to open up public comment. I see no public comment. I'm going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Entertain motion. Councilmember Sullivan.
I don't necessarily have a motion yet. I guess two areas of thought that I'm kind of not comfortable moving forward with this yet. I feel like we're, the state of California and the nation is sort of jumping the gun a little bit, but the science is the science, and if that's what the doctors and the scientists say, then I believe it. I think the other piece is that we already have our staff back in the offices with the public. I don't think it's right that we hide, kind of at home with our computer screens if we have staff servicing the public. So I'm definitely in support of moving forward. And I think going back to public meetings is probably the right move based on those variables. I think the area that I do have some concerns is that we've been told numerous times that it's sort of in person or nothing. And what I mean by that is I want a hybrid meeting. I want meetings where folks like the county can call in remotely, or they can come in person and we're there in person. And I know I've been told there's a variety of issues with that. There's plenty of local governments meeting in that fashion now. We have plenty of members of the public that are medically fragile, they're immunocompromised, they're busy working with kids. And I think honestly, one of the better parts of COVID is that we've had lots of participation from folks that traditionally couldn't participate. And even though we read their comments into the record and we receive the emails and we get the letters, it's not the same as hearing someone live. It's not the same as hearing the inflections in their voice. It's not the same as hearing them speak. So I'm in support of going back to in-person, but I strongly would like to see a hybrid model where we could use Zoom and in-person for folks that don't feel comfortable or not able to make it to a council meeting.
Councilmember Stockton.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's time to get back to back inside. I think everybody's already meeting there. We're having fundraisers outside where people are gathering. It's such an important thing for us to be able to meet in person. If the science says it's time, I think everything's been opened up. I'm not in favor of renewing this resolution. I think we should get back into chambers and meet in person and gather together. If people want to wear masks when they come in, if that makes them feel, if that's safer for them, I respect their decision to do that. And I also think that they're, we continue to accept emails on public comment and different things like that. So I would be in favor of just going back to how it used to be.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Roberts.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as the previous two council members. I'm in favor of going back in person. But like what Councilmember Sullivan pointed out is I want to keep the more engagement of a hybrid model. And I find it very, very hard to believe that a brand new system we just installed is incapable of doing a hybrid type meeting when there's systems out there that have been used for a decade that are capable of doing hybrid meetings. So I think some of that needs to be looked at a little bit more. And if for some reason it is, maybe we have the wrong system. Yeah, if we can return it or swap it out, or if maybe there's a different module we can plug in, I think we should really look at the options to keep the virtual aspect of it for engagement with the public. Thank you.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and simple. I think let's follow the science. I'm looking forward to sitting between Boyd and Silva and getting back in front of the dais and face to face. The community's back. The community's back. We should be back. It isn't fair that we put one single person of the city staff in a position that we are not willing to ourselves. So we need to step up and lead from the dais and get back to work in Vacaville.
Councilmember Silva.
Just a question for the staff. If a commissioner or council member or anybody else needs to serve on a meeting, but they are restricted because they're COVID positive, is there a mechanism that would allow, can you please explain the mechanism that will allow them to still participate in that meeting?
Thank you, Councilmember Silva. So yes, there is a mechanism as long as the staff knows in enough time before the agenda is posted. So we would have to post the location where the council member would be participating from. That council member would have to allow the public into that location if the public wanted to attend from that location. But if those things happen, then they can participate remotely. So it's back to the regular Brown Act provisions for teleconferencing.
So it has to be posted. So if they catch COVID or are notified that they're positive a Sunday or a Monday, then they wouldn't be able to participate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How do we work around that? I think if someone's positive and they want to participate in a meeting, there should be a safe way to do so.
So unfortunately, right now, the Brown Act provisions do not provide for that unless you have the remote meeting resolution under Assembly Bill 361.
There's not like a partial way to do both. I mean, we're doing it right now.
No, right now we are operating under AB 361, but there is not kind of a hybrid way to do that, or an exception for certain situations if we don't have that resolution.
Okay. Well, sorry, can you please explain, so these hybrid approach that many other local governing agencies are doing, how do they work around that? Do we have any information on that?
So in that situation, I believe the public is allowed to participate remotely, but in the cases where a city council member wants to participate remotely, if they don't have the AB 361 resolution in place, then the council member would still have to post their location and allow the public into their location under the current Brown Act rules.
Is there any way we can make an amendment like the day of to the agenda? If someone has to attend remotely?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I don't want to give Greg Ritchie COVID if I catch it. All right.
Just Greg Ritchie. Councilmember Wiley.
Mayor.
Thanks. Councilmember Wiley.
Yes, I do understand the need to go back because it's been a while since we've been in person, but I also really do think that there should be a way that we can allow people to call in and have a hybrid choice for people that can't come to the meeting. My question is, would there be any kind of restrictions on the amount of people that could come? Like if we had a real hot button issue, could they pack the chambers when there would be no mask mandate or anything like that?
There's no size restrictions related to that for the size of our council chambers.
Except for the fire code.
Except for the fire code for, occupancy purposes.
All right. And so then we'll just do this, if we don't pass that resolution, then going forward, we will be in person until there would be a change, right? So we would just stay there until if there was a change in the COVID numbers or something, so.
That's correct. We could, if there is a change in COVID numbers, the city council could reconsider going back to the remote meetings and adopting that resolution.
All right, thanks.
Councilmember Sullivan.
So I was going to make a motion, but I see Roy coming behind me. So I
haven't gotten to speak either.
Oh, gotcha. So I guess, my question is, I guess I don't have a question, but Mike's point, or Councilmember Silva's point, is valid. I mean, this morning I woke up with a sore throat. I would have had to miss tonight's council meeting otherwise. I wouldn't have shown up and exposed you guys. It's probably just the cold, maybe it's not. And so this is going to come up. So for us to act like it's not, I think is not a great plan. So I would at least, hope staff can come up with some sort of last minute. If Councilmember Sullivan wakes up with a sore throat on Tuesday morning, how does he call into the meeting and use the Brown Act provisions to still participate? Or we're going to have meetings where we've got 1, 2, or 3 of us out because we're being good, respectful human beings. I think it's going to come up no matter what. I'm pretty firm on the public option. I think, Jeanette's point about packing the room. I mean, could you imagine if 50 people showed up like they did on some of the calls for it? I mean, it's not, I don't know. For me, it's too far just to go straight in person. So I'll let the other council members speak. And if I'm ready for a motion. If not, and I'll stop talking, but I am still not comfortable with just straight in person. I think it's got to be a hybrid for participants, in person for council.
Councilmember Stockton.
Good comments by everybody all the way around. My question is for Melinda. If since it's not incubation period, but the period of time that you have to stay at home if you were positive for COVID has gone down, is my understanding, to I think it's 5 days, maybe 7. Maybe Chief can clarify that for me. Is there anything that would prevent our council from continuing the meeting? Notifying the public that we're going to continue that same meeting with the same agenda, that 7-day period of time till that person is feeling better.
Well, so we notice, let me talk this through. So we do notice the regular meetings are set by council action. Mm-hmm. You can continue certain items, but I don't know. I think what you would have to do is cancel that meeting and probably call a special meeting for later. I suppose the other way would be to open the meeting and adjourn it to a date certain, adjourn it to like 5 days later. I think that's probably how you would do it. Open the meeting, adjourn it for another date certain, but then, I guess there would be a scheduling issue.
Okay. What would you need council action to do that, or is that something that we would just do on that Tuesday that the meeting came up? Something that we do now or then?
No, it'd be then.
Okay.
Stockton.
That's all I got.
Councilmember Silva.
Could we, this is a question for staff, could we reserve essentially a quarantine room if someone wants to participate, then we list it, and if someone's positive, then they can access the meeting from there, and then it's officially communicated on the agenda?
Silva, if you're okay with it, I would like to jump in and possibly save this. Although I do, and I would like for us all to go back 100% back in to council and have the public, if they truly want to come in and speak, come in and speak. But I'm not going to say, well, if it's okay for the public not to come in, it's not okay for the council not to come in. So my suggestion tonight is I'm going to make the motion
to renew the resolution for remote teleconference meetings until we can do it 100%. And that's going to be my motion, and I'll take a second.
I'll second that. Quick question. Staff, can we get an update on how to do this, how to approach this as a hybrid approach within our system?
That could be a hybrid approach. If someone wants to come into the council and sit in at the dais, they can.
Just point of clarification here, folks. So I think there's two different issues here. The concept of the hybrid meeting is not a Brown Act issue. It's a convenience issue. The issue that you're wrestling with regards to if a council member or a commission member becomes ill or infected potentially with the COVID virus, how do they participate in the meeting? Under current law for Brown Act and the AB 361 provisions, that can't happen. As much as I appreciate the willingness and the desire to come wounded to the meeting, you may just have to miss the meeting, as opposed to continuing all the items on the agenda. That's, unfortunately, things happen. People get ill and they may have to miss a meeting, whether it was COVID, the flu, or whatever. The timing is such that we require a 72-hour notice period for any changes to the agenda. So I wish there was a way to accommodate that, but right off the top, I don't see it. As far as the ability to provide a hybrid meeting, there's a variety of different options. Some of the methods that you've identified might be easier than others. The changes to accommodate Zoom and in-person meetings presently does not exist. I will need to upgrade our system to make that happen, but there doesn't mean that other provisions that are less expensive and more readily available could not be explored and provided should council's interest to do that. So I think that's
thank you.
That's the way to approach it. So thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, but we're still on the question. Councilmember Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I'm wondering if maybe staff can go back and do a little more research. I think this is sort of an emerging issue. I'm looking at some stuff online at California League of Cities. I still don't technically understand why almost every meeting we have, the first question Ron asks is, city manager, what changes do we have? And he says, we have changes, this, that, or the other. I don't understand how we can't say, oh, Councilmember Sullivan is symptomatic tonight. He's calling in via teleconference. His address is blah, 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 like we always do. So I don't, and I guess the 72-hour rule or something, I just struggle to believe that there's not exclusions or differences or changes. And so I'm not doubting staff, but I'm wondering if maybe it would be prudent to have them go back and do one last triple check. And then also it'd be nice to actually hear Aaron come back with some details on, here's why we can't do the hybrid meeting, or here's how we could do the hybrid meeting and the cost. I feel like I don't have enough information to really push this issue tonight. And so I really appreciate the mayor's extension. I just want a little more info so I'm comfortable making a decision. And I just struggle to believe with what a lot of the other local governments are doing out there that these are the only two options that we have. I totally could be wrong, and I don't mean that negatively to staff, but I'm hoping maybe we could do a deeper dive and bring some information back.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Ritchie.
I believe your microphone, sir.
To clarify, is a yes vote to make it go in person or not?
Virtual.
It's still virtual until we get better clarification on all the way in or halfway in.
Oh, I want to go. I say no. I want to be in person.
Okay.
Councilmember Silva.
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan.
I mean, I'm going to go yes, but I'm going to have all the same questions and problems in 30 days. So hopefully staff will bring information back.
They will, Sullivan. I agree with you.
Councilmember Stockton.
No.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. All right, fantastic. We have moved on to item 10, reports to city manager.
None this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
11, reports of city council. I do have Councilmember Silva, Stockton, and Sullivan. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And so just got several things here. One of the things that we talked about in the past is ARPA funds. One of the things that we've been looking at on how we continue to uplift different areas within our community and our city is looking at different areas of how we can improve it. We have a lot of plans we have different plans for different things, right? So right now there's a lot of work and a lot of thoughts and a lot of vision going on with respect to the general Markham-ish neighborhood, as well as other areas in the surrounding area. And one of the things I would like to get city council support for is next time we bring back ARPA funding, for there also to be a suggestion that we can discuss allocating some funds to support a neighborhood plan that would bring the voices of different folks from throughout the community, specifically in these different areas, to support the development and implementation of a neighborhood plan. In addition to that, we've been talking about how we can improve the overall health and well-being of our neighborhoods, with the thought of bringing in some support to identify different neighborhood champions that would then receive the training and insight on how to lead the change that they seek within their own neighborhood and surrounding community. The thought was where I would use our district funds to support this, but this ties into some of the talks that we're talking about when we're talking about the difference between equality and equity. Within District 3, there's predominantly lower income families and housing within that given area. It's one of the most diverse current districts that are out there, with all the lovely diversity that we truly do have throughout our city. And I can't meet the needs. I'm having trouble within the vision that's coming up, and whether it be small projects or large projects, of how to make that fit within the framework of the district dollars. So what I'd like to do is make a motion to further elaborate and further explain this concept with City Council to hopefully seek and receive approval to use ARPA funds to, number one, support a neighborhood plan, and number two, to support funds that would support a consultant that specializes in helping develop neighborhood association plans, as well, that focus on health and wellness. And then within the respect of the community district dollars, I can use those funds to help support smaller projects that can be provide immediate benefit to the residents throughout District 3. So that's my motion.
Councilmember Silva, I 100% agree with you, but I don't think this is the venue. When we bring ARPA funds back, I want you to make that motion. And I will.
Like when we bring ARPA funds back, that it be on there.
That's fine. We're going to discuss ARPA, and I have a bunch of asks too that I want. But when we get to ARPA, we'll discuss that, and I'll support you 100%. But I don't want to make a motion tonight to vote for something that we're going to discuss at a later date. I agree with you, but when ARPA funds come back, it's going to be a completely open discussion again for the council.
So, Mayor, do I have your support to ensure that those two particular items would be on the agenda when we bring back ARPA funds for discussion?
I will tell you that I will work with the city manager and with you, and we'll discuss on how we're going to frame it. I don't want to paint Aaron into a corner, but I absolutely will discuss it in open forum at the council member meeting that we have ARPA funds. 100% it will be spoken about on that night.
But I'm sorry, sir. So as the policymakers and drivers, do we, will it be some verbiage? Do I have the support to have some type of verbiage on that particular slide, for example? Just trying to clarify.
Yep.
Okay,
100%.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. So I got a few
If you have anything else?
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another issue I'd like to, for a housing strategy to consider is pursuing a lot of times. So again, there's a lot of movement going on, and one of the things that continues to come up within our discussions is how we a concern of how we continue to add more and more low-income housing units in a given area. So one thing I'd like for the council to consider when we bring back our housing strategy is a possible ordinance that limits the amount of subsidized rental units to be around 600 units per square mile area. So not making a motion, but I would like for council to sit on that. And when the housing strategy comes back, I'd like for that to be considered as we move forward. The next thing is I'll make a motion on this one. I would like for the mayor and the council to consider making committees that would bring in 2 to 3 respective council members to support the different strategic plans that we have within our strategic plan, our different priorities that we have. One of the things that I've kind of noticed, I think it would be one of the things that I think would add a better balance and insight in helping us drive some of our priorities and essentially making sure that they're happening and making sure that we're that there's some type of representation from the council is having again 2 to 3 of us designated to associated priorities that's in our strategic plan. So I would like to make a motion to support out there and see if I can get support for that to come back to see if that's something council would.
Yeah, I'll second that, Silva.
Conversating in the future. Thank you.
I will second that. We'll roll call vote.
Councilmember Wiley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie?
Yes.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Willett?
Yes.
3 more things.
All right, Councilmember Silva,
No, I'm never done. Never done. 3 more things real quick.
3 more things?
Yeah, that's it. District 3. See how it goes? Parks and Recreation had an expo, had a chance to talk to a lot of staff out there. Fantastic staff. We got the right people ahead of champion a lot of our parks and recreational programs. Going to be more proud of them. Just a note out to the community, we have these scholarship programs that the council unanimously allocated Measure M funds for. Anybody out there that needs that's looking to get their kids involved in some of our different parks and recreational programs, including our summer camps, there's funding out there. So don't feel like there's that you can't afford to be able to access those. They're out there. Again, I know this council as a whole firmly supports the development of our youth. Otherwise, what's the point? So I really want to, again, appreciate, thank all the Parks and Rec for coming out Saturday morning, and the public was pretty well attended who were out there. There's the piano class, by the way. Some of those piano players were very magical. So I gotta give those little ones a shout out. 2 more things. Station 72 had a privilege to riding along with those fellas yesterday for a few hours. Really miss working in that realm of healthcare. I used to work in the emergency room, not on a rig, but it was really it was a good opportunity for me to get out there and see the different issues that are going on both within the department and with the level of service that we continue to provide. One of the things I noticed, and this is really something I'm hoping we all find a way as a community to support, is that when you got folks, when you have ambulances, police, firefighters that are they have their lights and sirens on, pull out of the way, please. Sitting in the back on the first ride along, there was several seconds that they just had to wait in order to clear the intersection because for whatever reason, people felt that wherever they were trying to get was more important than our public safe, our paramedics being able to access the patients that were in need. All right, so definitely appreciate the fellas for welcoming me in and riding along. Looking forward to the future. Last thing is just want to for all the residents or anybody else who's interested in Trial Park, receive this in the mail. Sorry, all this background's messed up. But March 10th, 6 p.m. on wonderful Zoom. There's going to be an update on the Trial Park improvement plan, so really looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Councilmember Stockton.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to give a huge shout out to the Vacaville Police Department, Vacaville Public Works, and probably most of all the citizens that have been very attentive out on Hillcrest Circle, where we have emergency access to some of the trails back there. The trailhead there was vandalized 3 different times in the last month and a half. With the help of the community, the police department, Public Works, they actually made an arrest. I was excited to hear that. But one of the things that just really shined to me was not only the commitment of the people that live there to take care of their neighborhood and to make sure that things are taken, that things are looking nice and are being maintained. But Public Works came out there, and every time that the trailhead signs were damaged, they came out there and fixed it. When the fences were yanked down, the locks were cut, they came out right away and they took care of the public. I was just really very, very thankful to hear from the residents out there how much they appreciated the efforts from Public Works, Brian McLean, specifically, as well as I believe Sergeant Porter from the police department, some of his CSOs and his team that came out there. It just goes to show that when we all work together, we can keep our neighborhood nice and we can maintain some of these areas that unfortunately individuals vandalize. The second thing that I wanted to highlight was I had the opportunity to attend the Vacaville Firefighters Crab Feed on Saturday, and I learned that this crab feed put them over raising $1 million that they have poured back into our community in a variety of different things, from helping kids with cancer, the Campfire Fund. They raised, I think, $40,000 or $50,000 in about 5 minutes one year that I went there. And before COVID, they helped with the LNU fire victims. And I think it's so important for the public to know that, the people who work for our fire department, and I would go so far as to say as our city, but certainly our firefighters, they do more than just serve in that role. They are part of our community. They care about our community. And it's clear not only in the hard work and efforts that they make when they're saving lives and saving property, but also when they're investing in our community. So I wanted to reach out and thank them. And lastly, I just wanted to thank Council Member Sullivan. He and I have had the opportunity to attend the Summit on Homelessness in Solano County conversations. I know we talked a little bit about it earlier, but a lot of work and a lot of conversations with other council members, from other places, and staff members. Emily Cantu's been involved. I just wanted to really extend my appreciation for everyone that's been involved. Homelessness is something that is not new, that it's out of hand. There are folks that need our help. But if we want results we've never had, sometimes we have to do things that we've never done. And I'm excited that we're working together on doing something unique for Solano County that I believe will help protect our community members that are most at risk, that'll protect our business owners, our neighborhoods, our parks, and our kids. So I'm just really excited to work on that, and wanted to thank Councilmember Sullivan for his efforts in working with that on that issue with me. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's go to Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I just kind of wanted to echo Councilmember Stockton's comments. I really appreciate his participation. Emily gave us a great overview, but just to give you guys a quick 1-minute version of what's been happening. So about 2.5 years ago or so, we started a 2x2 with the county. It really started as sort of a discussion around the tiny sheds project that was being pushed in Vacaville. So maybe even 3 years ago at this point, that sort of fell apart, and the group kind of met and started convening with a new supervisor, and that whole thing fell apart, and it stalled, and nothing happened for 7 or 8 months. And we tried to get the county to the table, and for whatever reason, they weren't interested in doing that at the time. So a series of conversations started happening amongst a couple city council members from Fairfield, Sassoon, and Vacaville, and that slowly but surely morphed into what we're calling the 2x2. And the 2x2 again was 2 council members from Sassoon, Fairfield, Benicia, Vallejo, and Vacaville. We've been meeting for about 9 months now, and we've really been talking about how we collectively partner together, how we work together, someone who's homeless in Vacaville today could very well be homeless in Fairfield tomorrow. You know, we've all done this dance where we drop our homeless off in their city and they drop their homeless off here, and our providers are fighting over beds, and it's just a mess. And so the group was kind of moving along with the notion of how do we start some sort of executive commission on homelessness, and really kind of push the issue across the county. How do we get the county involved? And surprisingly, Supervisor Mashburn and Supervisor Spearing, I got to give them credit, sort of got ahead of this somehow and basically set up this homeless format and essentially asked for pretty much the same thing at the format. And so Councilmember Stockton and I were pretty pleased with the results. It was pretty in line with the work we've been doing for the last year. And really now we're moving in that direction to collectively work on homelessness as an entire county. Dixon and Rio Vista look like also agreed to be part of the partnership with the county. So all of us working together to advocate for the different resources and really address the things that we need to address together is something that's very, very exciting for Solano County, and I think we'll make some progress. As a secondary part of that, there was some discussions amongst the city 2x2 group through the ARPA process to stand up a regional kind of sheltering model, basically where we share shelter beds or we share resources together. And so part of the issue in Vacaville is we have no front door, we have no navigation center, we have no one for people to access resources unless they go into first during business hours or they're arrested by a police officer and they want to drive them to the shelter in Fairfield. And so part of what we were talking about was how do we collect and kind of add shelter beds to the Fairfield shelter, and how do we get access to homeless into those beds from Vacaville, from Vallejo, from Benicia, from Sassoon. So we talked about a series of navigation centers that could be the front door for services to get folks into shelter, get folks in treatment, get them off our streets, get them out of our creeks, get them out of police care, and really get them into the care that they need, which is in a shelter with professionals. At this point, that shelter is in Fairfield. There is a proposal for navigation centers in Vacaville and Vallejo. So we'll be bringing that back forward to you guys as well. I just want you to know that's coming. You know, I know I approached homeless services with a couple of you right when you first got on council, and you were leery and you said, go do the work and bring back a plan. And I feel like Councilmember Stockton and I've done a ton of work. We've done a ton of planning. And I hope you guys will be receptive and excited to what we bring back. I know it's a unnerving situation, but the one thing we know for sure is if we do nothing, we will continue to have the homeless issue that we have. There's 100 homeless in Vacaville. And I'm very excited about our progress. And I hope you guys will join us on this process and trust Councilmember Stockton and I and give us a little leap of faith if we need it as we bring some stuff back. So anyways, I just wanted to say that really quick. The second thing I want to say really quickly was, and Councilmember Wiley may have the same thing, but just a big thank you to Councilmember Wiley, Melinda from the City Attorney's Office, and Georgianne from the City Manager's Office, and then Jeremy Johnson from the Police Department. We had an amazing impromptu tour with one of the local Girl Scout troops on Friday. It was a lot of fun. The police department's always the highlight. You know, governing is never as interesting as the police department and the jail. Ron, they all sat at your desk and they made new laws and they had lots of fun, but a big thank you to staff for being flexible and having fun with us. And thank you for showing the troop around. That's all I got. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Looks like the next person is Vice Mayor Roberts. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to echo kind of what Councilmember Stockton brought up with Public Works. Councilmember Sullivan and I have been working with the neighborhood that's had a few issues with signage and lighting, some damaged fencing, and got a hold of the interim director Ray Leftwich and Brian McLean, and they got, I believe, all the signage fixed. They got the lighting fixed, and I believe they're working on the fence here sometime soon. And so I just want to give a big thanks to Public Works for helping out with that aspect. And then the item I wanted to discuss is I brought up about a year ago, right before fire season, is the establishment of some type of emergency preparedness, either committee or roundtable, or if you even want to go more formal, to the governor authorized emergency preparedness council. I think it's a little bit too formal for like what we deal with, about getting the whole community engaged with, because per the new FEMA guidelines are put out in October, it's actually a requirement as part of emergency planning. And so not really a motion, but more of direction to staff to bring out what do you think would be the best option for Vacaville, whether it's just a work group, a roundtable, a little bit more formal committee, because yeah, it's only a matter of time before we have another fire. It's not when, it's if. And the more we get the community engaged, the better we can respond, the more people be informed. And I think Vacaville has the opportunity to be like a shining example of what that could look like for other cities. Because we do have a very good public safety. I mean, I do emergency management on my regular job. So there's a wealth of knowledge. And then with the city manager being the EOC director, you've dealt with the fire yourself, sir. So I think using that experience, we can make Vacaville like the example what other cities could follow in the area. So I'd just like you to bring that back at some point, hopefully before fire season, for a way we can look at how the state can approach it.
Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you. I want to first say happy International Women's Day to all the women leaders in Vacaville and across the state. It was, as Councilmember Sullivan said, very nice last Friday afternoon to be able to spend some time with a group of about 10 fourth grade girls and let them see the city hall and the police department, and to meet with, strong women leaders in our city, with Deputy Direct City Manager Georgianne Mager-Smith and the City Attorney Melinda Stewart. So it was a really nice activity. And early, about 2 weeks ago, we also participated in a mock city council at Sassoon for the Solano Youth Coalition, which is through the Solano County Board of Education. And it was a really good opportunity for high school juniors, seniors, and even from across the different school districts in different cities to hear about civics and how important it is for citizens to take action. And then we met with them for about 2 hours, and the League of Women Voters too. And then they had about 2 hours afterward to talk about it all. So it was a very good work with the Solano Youth Coalition. I also want to just say that I really did like the process we had to appoint our commissioners, and I'll congratulate the new commissioners, and also just how great the quality was of all the other candidates who applied. And before last year, when we did a different way, we didn't know the planning commissioners or the Parks and Rec commissioners very well. So I think this was good for all the council members and the public to hear just 2 minutes from each person who will be serving on our commission. So thank you for that opportunity, even though it did, take quite a bit of time. And we mentioned district dollars a couple of times. I will just say that I am working in District 6, and we are organizing sort of a spring cleanup for our citizens. That's going to happen in April, and there'll be more information coming out on that. And just finally, it was very good opportunity to have, almost all the city council members were able to be at the Chamber of Commerce State of the City, and the presentation by the Vacaville leaders was really good. So that was a great opportunity as well. So thank you.
Councilmember Sullivan, you have your hand up again?
Yeah, sorry, I know we're trying to get out of here. So one quick suggestion, Jeanette, Councilmember Wiley just spurred a thought. So I did make a comment about bringing back some information to the council on commissions, as well as maybe some sort of citizens kind of education forum, or kind of a citizens academy of sorts. We had so many good candidates through the commission interviews tonight. We lost a couple good commissioners just because of the way the process rolled out. I'd really love to give folks a chance to stay involved, but also to sort of groom and educate kind of our next generation of commissioners. I don't know if I need to make a motion to have council, have staff bring this back, or if staff are going to do that anyways, but I'd really like staff to bring that back to us in the next maybe month, so that we can actually get back with some of these folks and invite them to be involved, even though they weren't selected for commissions. So city manager, I don't know if you're going to do that based on the comments from earlier, if I need to get a motion right now, but that's what I would like to bring up really quickly before we go.
So I think to do it the justice that the council is interested in would require more than a month. If you're looking at in terms of the types of different commissions or committees that could be appointed, we would need some more time to bring that back. But so I think it would be helpful to get the council to support and endorse that, and then give us some time to get back to you.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that by this summer we have an agenda item brought back to us to discuss committee structures, appointments to committees, as well as some sort of citizens academy where folks can get involved. I think we've had that in the past. So sometime before the summer starts, so before July, ideally it comes back to council for us to discuss and loop back with the commissioner candidates that weren't selected.
I'll second that.
Call, please.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
No. Okay, I don't see any more hands up.
I have to make a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
So for the closed session items we're going to have, out of abundance of caution, I'm going to recuse myself for a portion of it, not the whole item. Closed session specific discussion with the VFA item due to potential conflict of interest, which I don't agree with, and it did not create a non-recurring, non-residual income source to my business. The source was a one-time fee-based income, but at abundance of caution, I'm going to accuse myself for 25% of the comments to make sure that I can proceed and bring value to the community and the topics in the future.
Okay, great. And I'm going just to close with, because I just want to give a comment, and I'm not debating, but Councilmember Sullivan, and I don't want this to be a debate. You got to speak your mind on homelessness. My issue on homelessness, and you and I have had multiple talks, is the state of California needs to step up and take care of mental health. 90% of these folks have mental health problems, issues, drug-related issues from mental health, or vice versa. And no matter what you do, and I know you said it tonight, well, if we don't do anything, then we're going to have homelessness. Whatever we do, we're going to have homelessness. And all you do, and you look around the cities, and no one can debate me, the more you pump into homelessness, the more homelessness you have. You know why? Because then there's avenues for homelessness to come here and try to get whatever we give. It might sound heartless. People always want to do everything they can, but we only have so much money. And the more you're going to open up centers and open up, we have a homeless shelter, a great homeless shelter. And we continue to say, we need to do more, we need to do more. The more you do, the more you're going to drive. There's never going to be a day that we don't have homelessness in Vacaville. There's never going to be a day. But the more resources, and I've watched every city, the more resources you pump into your city, those homeless people know it, and they come to your city because there's resources. And so, although I love his passion, I even told him tonight, I love his passion, I put him on the homeless thing. The problem is, you're not going to solve homelessness until the state steps in and says, hey, we need to take care of our mental health folks. So I don't want to debate. Now I see your hands up, and I don't want it to be a debate. I just want to say my piece. You said your piece, but I'm going to give you the floor because you're a council member. So go ahead, Sullivan.
No, I just want to say, Ron, I can totally appreciate your point of view. I probably agree with 94% of what you just said. I think all I'm asking for is give me the chance to prove you wrong. And I appreciate your comments, and I hear you. I think I have some ideas, and I look forward to bringing some stuff back and working with you on this, but I can appreciate your point of view.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move closed session. We're not going to report out tonight. And we thank everyone, and good night, Vacaville.